All right, what's up? What's up? We are back. We are live on a rare Wednesday night edition, popping out on a Wednesday night. We had some classic IT issues the other night. Shout outs for those that did join us on last night's Tuesday night, the traditional Tuesday night live stream, of course. Hey, for those that are new, typically we're live here Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, but because we did get a little short change last night, not quite, the live stream that maybe we wanted with the IT issues, we figured, hey, only the right thing to, double back like a deluxe. I guess it's not a deluxe if it's like a might delete later. If it's a might delete later and then you drop a deluxe, but you delete the original album, but you keep the deluxe, is the deluxe still the deluxe? I don't really know how that works at that point. Either way, this is just the redo. I guess, could J. Cole, could he re-upload the album with just totally new songs? I don't know if that's a possibility. There was a little bit of a stretch there where, because we still have 7 Minute Drill just saved into some playlists where we just we'll save the whole albums into it. So it's, it's just like immediately when the album drops, it's like, okay, we'll just save this whole album in. And then I guess, hey, yo, we never took it out of chat. Hey, pause. Whoa, hey, yo, what are we, Stefan Diggs over here with the playlist? It is what it is. But, we just, I guess, we are, because we left 7 Minute Drill in. But there was a time when it randomly shuffled to that song. And for some reason, I guess you're like, wait a second, but you took the song down. Something had happened where, I don't know what, something had gotten uploaded into that. It wasn't like a J. Cole song at all. It was something totally random. It was like some kind of dance. When it did shuffle over that. And then, you go into the different options. I was like, okay, go to album, go to artist. It was still going. If I remember correctly, I don't know, this was earlier this year, so I guess I don't remember the full details. I just remember I was like, wait a second, why is 7 Minute Drill playing? Like, this song doesn't exist anymore. And then, just this random song is playing on, I guess it wasn't 7 Minute Drill. I was like, what is this song? Look down, why is it titled 7 Minute Drill? The whole, I guess, path at that point. Figure out that, like, wait a second, something random is just uploaded in this spot on this album and it's reappearing in the playlist. And I guess that's not the case anymore. If we go queue it up and try to play it right now, will it be a random song? I don't know. Shout out J. Cole. He's getting to play on the might delete later, but on 7 Minute Drill. Does it still register if we click and try to play it on this song? I guess we'll just queue it up as next. It's just gonna skip over it though, and not play it. Oh, I guess. Hey, yo, got a couple songs in the queue. Can we move 7 Minute Drill up in the queue? Is that even going to allow it? I don't even know. We're gonna test the limits of Spotify here. Okay, it says we can play it. We can pause, move it around a little bit. So 7 Minute Drill, it's going up to the top of the queue. We're going to play it next. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see if there is a random song uploaded here. Nope. Hey, yo, just going to skip to the next one. As you'd expect. Okay, so I guess it's all fixed. Whatever happened, there's no evidence that this actually did happen. Unless you're just a random, J. Cole fan like us that never took the song out of a playlist for some reason. Or I guess if you were playing the album start to finish at that point, because obviously the rest of the album, there's still, quality there. And I guess, hey, yo, we didn't mean to start out with the J. Cole corner on a Wednesday night. Shout out, he is our guy. We can show you the Spotify raps in the past, but of course it is a little bit difficult to, go back and drop some of the bars. I mean, I'm sure there are some artists that it's like, in other ways, it's like maybe there's real ways that it's more difficult to look back and listen to some of the songs. But for Cole, of course, he was approaching, especially, I mean, really his whole career, but the way that it was building up the latter half of his career here, where he was lyrically really putting himself, of course, and I mean, first person shooter is the ultimate version of that, as the best rapper in the game. And then I know that, I obviously he didn't. Well, maybe he did. It's difficult to say looking back. I don't know if he thought that the apologizing would have been like a dropping out. But then, it's like, okay, well, what do you do at that point? You're going to apologize and then double back and drop another diss track. So it's like, okay, are you going to get on a diss track with Kendrick? And then, now you're going against Drake at that point and neutralizing your first #1 hit song, which I guess would be a move. Hey, yo, would that have been a better career move, ultimately? At that point, who knows? That'd have been a weird turn. Hey, yo, like a Game of Thrones level twist. Cole out here, like what's the name of the Peter Dinklage character? I feel like he's the, it's been a while and we've only really watched it like, one time through, kind of in the background, just trying to power through the episodes just to say that we did watch it, and it's obviously good. It's prestige TV, well written. There's I guess there's gonna be scenes that you're gonna watch, but maybe from a, obviously from a quality TV standpoint as well too, But we were just like, okay, we gotta at least say that we've watched Game of Thrones. It's one of the shows of the generation, but yeah, it is maybe one of those. If he was moving around like one of those characters, kind of switching sides, that'd be a little bit sneaky from our guy. He's trying to move the right way, trying to I guess be the good guy in the beef, and then the way that it did end up going out, obviously there was that whole sort of, I guess, what do you want to say, meme push, internet push, where it was like, well, Cole is actually the real, not actually the winner here, but it's like, oh, now he's just sitting back peaceful, like he doesn't have to worry about any of the bars, and that is true, to some degree, but then again, it's like, well, what are you worried about? Because we could like make this, we could say this about like the NBA superstars if they get eliminated in the playoffs. Like we haven't said that about Giannis in the last couple of first rounds that Giannis has had some injuries and stuff as well too. Who do we call out, chat? Who's been missing the playoffs early? I guess we got Cleveland on in the background right now. So hey, Donovan Mitchell. It's not like we get to the finals every year and there's the tweet that's like, oh, last year, Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to worry about facing this Cavs defense. Like, he's fortunate. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You know what you have to do to win the championship? You have to play the best teams. You have to actually go through the matchups. I guess, there are years when the matchups in the past are obviously more favorable than others. But still, you get the point that and at the end of the day, you have to play the competition. So, like, it's like, we can debate about what that level of competition is, and that becomes a really great debate about this past. Who thought again we were going to be talking about the beef, but it is what it is. That's what was the great thing about the beef. It was we're debating, of course, the level of competition. Obviously, Kendrick, has emerged now, and his catalog, just the whole spotlight on his career at this point has really, highlighted the greatness of everything that he's done. Hey, shout out. But on the other end as well too, pause. Drake is obviously, hot take, and maybe it is at this point as well too. I guess it just depends on, what kind of old school purist you are at this point. And I guess there's nothing wrong with that as well too. But it's like, okay, at some point, you got to look at the numbers here. You can't deny the greatness of the man. It is what it is. I guess it would be a little, and I guess, we've, maybe not to do the Steph Drake comparisons, but Steph obviously had maybe, Oscar Robertson specifically, but he did have some old heads being like, hey, how is this guy dominating in 2025? So, it's like, okay, at some point you just have to be like, what are we doing here? Like, this guy's great. It doesn't really matter if he's not, stylistically, defensively like Oscar or whatever, and, maybe not the same sort of 1 through 4, whatever it is. But, okay, so Drake is, a pop star, he's like 70-30 pop star rapper, and Kendrick is, 80-20 rapper, pop star, whatever. I guess maybe he's more 70-30 rapper, pop star, just his rapping and beat selection so good that they'll become mainstream as well too. I mean, we could go like, oh, swimming pools is, sort of a stereotypical song for that, where it's like, hey, he makes a club banger that's, about drinking. It's also like, what's a good song about, a good song to bump in the club, a song about drinking. So, maybe, he hides some message in there as well too. But, obviously catchy hooks and stuff has been a staple of his career. But, for, like we're saying, for Cole, it's something you got to face the competition. That's really the thing that I guess was the bummer. So, yeah, he did get to avoid and yeah, it would have been tough. Like, obviously we saw that Kendrick was, really, those are some brutal bars there. Like, hey, you're really going to have to bring your A game. I don't even know if we could go like Chat GPT, like what a J. Cole, diss track. It'd be funny if we went to the Chat GPT, like what a J. Cole diss track. It's like, I'm sorry, Kendrick, I can't believe what I did. It's actually just I guess a diss track on himself at that point. It is what it is. And, shout out again. Like, you would assume that, and I know that, unfortunately 7-minute drill is the evidence, I guess, left behind of the beef, but you would still assume that if he was really actually trying to be mean, because I guess that's the thing that, like, again, Kendrick was actually, willing to do, and the beef was be mean, like and maybe that is just it, like, J. Cole just can't be mean. So I guess if we look at it like that, like, can you be the greatest rapper of all time if you can't be mean, I guess, is really the question. I guess every rapper we've seen be the greatest of all time has been mean. And again, we're talking about, I guess, in this conversation on the mic, even a guy like Nas as well too is obviously, when push comes to shove, has been as vicious lyrically as any of them, with the way he was able to attack Jay-Z on Ether. So it's like, if Cole, and again, even those guys made up. So I guess maybe Cole could have looked at that and been like, we can probably go in the rap battle, because like, I guess it is probably safe to assume, but I don't know if necessarily Kendrick's attacks, and again, as vicious as they would have been, I don't know if they would have been sort of the same subject matter that they would have been as Drake's attacks. So there would have been, I think, a way to navigate that later in their careers, if that's what he's worried about. Again, sort of the friendship aspect, and I don't even know if that's a thing that has happened as well too. I think Kendrick has obviously been very okay with being like, hey, I'm good. I got my circle. I got my guys, and this is our crew, and it is what it is. But it's still just the sort of career working together, sort of the friendship, whatever, like we're saying, is there's a path to that. If the subject matter is just sort of like, hey, we're going to argue about material, and we're going to argue about status, and maybe there is sort of some off the court jabs that are going to be taken at each other. But like, I guess, and that would be, I guess, digging into we hit the Reddit pages and see what it is. Like, I guess some stuff could get Nardwuar on the investigation. I don't know, would he pick a side? And then, if you had him digging up stuff, obviously you'd be unstoppable. Chad, you'd be like, how is he finding out? This stuff is crazy. But, again, it's not like the accusations, I guess, we had, the accusations, the allegedlys, it's not like they would be maybe thrown out the same way toward Cole as they would be toward Kendrick. And, vice versa. Again, as we saw with Cole, they probably wouldn't be thrown out the same way. And, obviously that's respect to both those guys for moving in the ways that they have. But, again, you would assume that the songs would be a little bit different, but they could still be high level and great displays of what they're able to accomplish. And again, for him just not able to, and maybe it is a little, I guess maybe this comp had to have been made at the time. There's no way that, is it 2 years later we're talking about this? Hey, it is what it is. But, there's no way that 2 years later, this is the first time this comp has been made. But I guess maybe it's the first time that I've realized it myself. But this is a little bit Scottie Pippen-ish with him in that team. And again, not to call out Scottie Pippen, shout out. Like, we were looking back at that team a little bit ago. That team was pretty good. And that team had maybe even a little bit of ability to win the title with Scottie Pippen. And, again, not trying to make a point there. I'm just saying that, again, the ceiling of that team with him as the best player was a really, really good team. I guess, could Cole be a little, Cole versus Pippen, I guess, is a good comparison. Not to say that Cole is necessarily, because, for these guys, he has had like a standalone career in a sense. He's dropped hit albums, hit songs, by himself. But he did have the #1 single with Drake, and it feels like maybe obviously he himself dropped the lyric where he says they everybody's kind of throw the bronze at him. I don't know if that's a pause, but he kind of still is in obviously the big three and included, but still is a hierarchy there that. And I guess, he was saying that, what was that, like 2019 in that Dreamville album? I don't even know. But, definitely a little bit of a turn. Is that the turning point? Where is that like the last time that he was talking about that? I don't know. We have to go through the timeline. Maybe our guy Jeremy Hecht will get there in his videos that he's been dropping. Shout out, of course. And I guess, Wednesday night, we're missing our, watching the Bigger Picture pod. Shout out. One of the go-to shows that we have been tuning into for 2025. So maybe that's a reason why, this is on our mind, Wednesday night. It's typically a time when this conversation would be brought up. We're listening to that pod, shout out. But, even if it is a smaller audience, every not say for the show, I'm saying just for the conversation of Drake and Kendrick, I don't even know if it is a smaller audience, because it is one of those things. It's fun to talk about. I mean, who still doesn't like talking about, and I guess, I guess, even as vicious as Kendrick and Drake's beef has, and I guess, like we're saying, a couple years later, it does feel like maybe the peak sort of quote unquote violence of the beef has moved past it. But obviously, the beef of like, Biggie and Tupac, obviously is a little bit different to talk about because of the way that ended. Obviously, rest in peace to both those guys. But obviously with Jay-Z and Nas, and maybe that one as well too. And not to say that this one doesn't have a clear result. Like, again, Drake and Kendrick have, it's good, for the battle itself, definitely a clear result. And, Jay-Z and Nas, they did obviously, make up in a way. And, Jay-Z admitting defeat, and Nas does still, it's a good conversation, the legacy stuff, but just in general, it's fun to go back and kind of hash all that stuff out as well too. But hey, shout out to our guy Cole. I mean, maybe we're just gearing up for 2025 or 2025 our 2026, listening music rotation as well too, because obviously again, since the whole events of the beef, Kendrick has been the main guy atop of the Spotify raps now the last couple of years. I imagine it probably is going to stay that way for a little bit, that's for sure. And not to say that I think it was obviously underrated a little bit at this point, kind of how mainstream the back catalog was. Of course, they were classics obviously when they dropped, with Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, all that stuff, but just sort of the people still listening to it. And with Drake as well too, again, he was putting in more work year to year, dropping projects back then as well too. So there was a point when his discography was a little bit more sizable than Kendrick's. But at this point, Kendrick does have 6 albums. So while Drake does have a lot more, like, how many albums is Drake charting at this point? And again, shout out, he's one of the greatest, just in terms of people constantly streaming his stuff. And he does probably have like 8 or 9, that people are constantly listening to in like a major way here. And you get 1 song or 2 off the projects as well. So you get like Passion Fruit, off of what is even the name of that one, chat? More Life. Is that what that one is? Yeah, More Life 2017. So somebody's gonna be bumping that at some point at over the day. I imagine that song's gonna get played at least once a day by somebody. So that album's just gonna be getting plays. Again, based on hit songs like that. But let's see here. I guess and again, shout out. People are streaming on which albums are they not streaming for him at this point as well too. I guess Care Package, is Care Package the one? It might be. I guess we'd have to go double check the numbers for Dark Lane demo takes. And I think the 2015 run is a little bit lower on the streaming numbers now than, again, the quality of it. Maybe go back and looking at it, because it was a great run for him. With your reading, It's Too Late, and What a Time to Be Alive. And, again, So Far Gone, Thank Me Later. You got some hits off there as well, too. What do you got? Yeah, Over off of Thank Me Later. So Over's got to be, whoa, here we go. We're playing, what are we playing? Unforgettable? I guess we're accidentally queuing up songs here. It is what it is. Now we're playing Thank Me Later. Do we just end up listening to the whole album? I don't know. We might. But I think we mentioned this a couple live streams ago, but we've been, and I don't know, I guess, I don't know if we've been, maybe standing a little bit too hard on the Kendrick side of the beef. It is what it is. But I did feel like we needed to sort of mix up the rotation a little bit and get a different top 5. And maybe there's another artist that's been in the top 5 as well too that, maybe it's just like we'll just kind of back off of the streaming stuff a little bit. It's obviously a little less appealing to listen to some of the music now than it was a couple years ago. But, and Kendrick would have always been in the top 5. Again, maybe just not always number 1. But it's like, okay, maybe we need to get a different person in the top 5 other than our guy Drake. But make no mistake, I'm telling you right now, Drake is going to be in the top 5. Drake might be he might end up being number 1 next year, because we're going to make up for all of the songs that we didn't play this year. It is what it is. We're just going to be replaying them on Spotify this next year. And I guess we're not going to check our YouTube music rap, because then if we just add that to Spotify, then Drake might end up being our number 1 artist. It is what it is. So shout out. At the end of the day, I guess, do we take sides? We definitely, from a legacy standpoint, we'll have the honest conversations here. It is what it is. But we're never gonna deny the fact that listening to Drake is, we're never gonna deny the fact that, hey, the REMINGTOM pod listens to Drake. It is what it is. It is what it is. We grew up in the 2010s. We cannot help it. The big 3 is just, it's just always going to be a staple part of the rotation. But again, like I'm saying, I guess Drake does have a little bit of that subject matter early on, and I guess a little bit. Drake's always had, and I guess to some degree, obviously, it's just a sort of staple of the game. But always about his status and his greatness, blah, blah, blah. And maybe more so the come up for that as well, too. I guess it is interesting thinking about Kendrick that, again, and not to say that he wasn't necessarily talking about on some, and maybe he was saving it a lot for features as well too. But you think about the albums, I guess, another reason to go back and listen to Good Kid, Mad City. But again, because it's sort of a storytelling album like that, it's not in the same style of the way that Kendrick or J. Cole and some of those Drake early projects are, where they're and there is storytelling in their songs as well too. Not to say that there isn't, but there is a little bit more of kind of that back and forth of storytelling and then status, lyrics as well too throughout the song. Which, and again, I think maybe Cole kind of being, can we say being under Drake? Hey, yo, pause. Cole kind of following Drake a little bit career-wise, maybe kind of molded some of his songs a little bit like that as well too, where he's like that. And I guess again, him being a lyrical guy, he's like probably gonna focus on the conscious stuff, but then be like, I gotta have the, and obviously maybe not just him following Drake, maybe some label stuff as well too. That's obviously been a conversation that was had this year of like, oh, what did Jay-Z tell him back in the day? But yeah, either way, shout out. I don't even remember how we got to talking about J. Cole at the beginning of this. It is what it is, but we'll see if some of those albums get back into the mix as well too. I guess KOD is a little, and I guess that album is a little bit of like a maybe for the J. Cole fans for sure. Definitely probably not as mainstream, but I don't know if it has sort of the critical or even the sort of looking back belovedness of some albums as well too. But it is an album that we really do love, and that one is. And on like the outro and stuff, he's he's definitely talking his talk for sure. But again, he has a little subject matter focused on that one as well too. So it's not like, oh man, you're wrong the whole time. Hey yo, it is what it is. But like the off season as well, the off season's tough to go back and listen to right now. It is what it is. It's just like the whole time. It's just like I'm the best alive. I'm the best alive. It's like, oh no, what happened? What happened? So close. So close. And not to say that, again, talent-wise, I guess, and hip-hop is still in some ways as well, too, a new genre. I know we celebrated the 50th anniversary. And again, speaking on the Tupac Biggie beef as well, too, and just that whole era. And not even that era as well, too. But, I mean, like I'm sure we mentioned here before. I mean, obviously, for people growing up in the 2010s that know, even like that kind of late 20-teens era of guys that we a whole bunch of guys that we lost there, rest in peace. But like Juice and Mac and X and just a whole bunch of, and Pop Smoke and just a whole bunch of superstar, and we could unfortunately probably even name a couple more, but just big names that would have had really sizable careers and just always been dropping music for a long time. And you see even guys like Nas still dropping music to this day, and even Nas could probably still drop music if he really wanted to, and he has the production connection as well too with Hit Boy, so he's gonna always just have consistent beats if he wants to continue to go down that path. But could J. Cole have like a little bit of like a King's Disease type of run? That is definitely a possibility, and he's obviously does his own production, but he could link up with somebody, and or I guess for himself as well too, just continue to evolve and continue to stay in the game, and there will be a time when his perspective matches with sort of a style, and it kind of all forms together. I mean, I guess we should mention the clips for this, and I know that they sort of were inactive as well too. It's not like they were dropping projects and then all of a sudden it was like, oh wait a second, this one's actually good now. They finally got a sound that works again. Again, they took the time off, they were away from the game, and they did end up developing, Pharrell, and they did end up developing a new sound that really works for 2025. But we're seeing now, of course, as time goes on and as these careers are able to play out, that of course the longevity, and these guys are still able to stay around. And even if again they're not mainstream, like even Eminem, he still does great numbers. He was still, I think, in the top 10 last year for dropping projects. And not to say that Grandpa Mathers is going to be out here dropping albums year to year, but he could still drop an album, like, quote unquote, for his fan base and still do really, really well, still service, and still drop really relevant music, still even have a project that, who knows, the critics look at some point and be like, yeah, he's still dropping some of the best quality stuff in our eyes, and we're going to recognize some a performance here or, the project there or whatever. So again, I guess there is still ways that Cole will continue to add to the legacy, but obviously, it's a real mountain to climb at this point. How many the Grammy run that Cole is going to have to go on is going to be crazy. It is what it is. And maybe it's a good thing he didn't drop the fall off as well too. It's a tough cycle. Obviously, GNX was unnominated. It's still this sort of 2-year Kendrick run of having the Not Like Us singles and the beef singles being the beef singles. Hey, yo, shout out. Has anybody ever called them the beef singles before? It is what it is. But you had the beef singles getting nominated at the Grammys and winning a bunch as well, too. The beef singles actually won at the Grammys 2025 and 2026, 2024, 2025. Crazy times. But now the album is going to have its run as well, too, and the songs off of that. But also, of course, like we're saying, the Clips, Chromacopia, Jid, all these great guys. I mean, Jid is an interesting one as well, too. If we're going legacy pound for pound, I don't know, him versus Cole, it's interesting, And, we're just also maybe reflecting our personal rotations as well. But, yeah, hey, yo, I don't know. Maybe we'll save Music Corner for another time. Shout out. But Donovan Mitchell, skies of the basket. Hey, yo, I guess the Cavs have, unfortunately, this fourth quarter not been really able to close this game at home in the throwback uniforms, chat. Hey, yo, are they going to be 500 in the throwback uniforms like they were in the mid-2000s? I guess with LeBron, of course, they're really good. But it's a lot different, Dean Wade versus Dwayne Wade. I guess Dwayne Wade obviously didn't play on the Cavs when he was good, and he didn't play on the Cavs when they were playing in these uniforms as well too. Craig Porter, he missed that spinning floater. Maybe that's one sort of spinning drive too many, but he did have one, drive to the right, stop, fade away, sort of that, Cavs, speaking of, it was sort of that Kyrie Irving kind of spin move. If it was an AI, like what do they have? Like AI Julius Caesar over these guys sometimes. It's like, which player is this? Or there was like a Trae Young one that we saw recently that was like Peter Griffin, I think. So maybe they get like a Peter Griffin over the Craig Porter, and then it's maybe, maybe it's like, okay, who is this guy? Maybe you think it was a Kyrie Irving type of move. But, no, it was actually Craig Porter. Shout out. And the fourth quarter, he's getting good minutes tonight. So that means, shout out, no Garland, obviously. But, Hunter on the drive. Fouled. We'll see here. They are down 11. I guess a minute 45. It's going to be a little bit of a reach for them to actually close this one out. Houston, shout out for pulling away. We also did have Raptors Sixers on for a little bit there, and that game ended up closing out while we were rambling on, so we didn't actually, I don't think, ever mention that one. But shout out, Toronto getting the win on the road. The road teams tonight are actually, I guess, doing okay. Shout out. I don't know if that means anything, but Toronto just in general, 7-3 on the road. 10-5, of course, on the year, continue to be one of the surprise teams. Philly at 8-6, shout out. Obviously, the season has gone way better than it's expected. The vibes of the team, just for them being able to focus on Maxey and Edgecombe as a very great foundation going forward is something that, a little bit like the Mavs, where it's like, okay, obviously we're in a different spot from where we thought this Luka Doncic piece, we're going forward. Oh, Jabari Smith misses the layup. Pat Ewing finger roll right off the back of the rim. Pause. Hey, whoa, hey, yo. What did we say earlier about Stephon Diggs or something? That might be right up there, chat. Hey, yo, do we have to go back and watch the clip of that? We might have to. That's crazy. Patrick Ewing finger roll off the back of the rim is nuts. IT might have to go in and edit that one out. I'm not sure. But they do have this down to 6. So a minute left. They get a couple of shots. Oh, if they stop Svengoon. Svengoon, chat. Do we have to look up fourth quarter numbers? It does feel like every time, pause, hey, we tune into a game and we see the Rockets in the fourth quarter. It is Svengoon having these closeout performances, these closeout games. So, you bring in Durant. You hope that, I guess in some way, you're bringing him in saying, if we need that guy, hey, yo, Durant's a great gamble at having sort of that closeout scorer. But Svengoon, of course, would have been that option anyways, and, it's adding to that core that you have. You're making a move to bring in a star player because you have other talented guys, and obviously you're just trying to raise the floor of the team. But Svengoon does seem to be the closer of the team. Like, I guess we'll just say what it is. Svengoon does seem to be the closer. And, again, Amen Thompson still, obviously, the talent is there. We're not necessarily, we're not saying that we're selling the stock that he is not a guy that can still be that even this year, who knows what's on the table for him in terms of that potential. But again, right now, if this was a playoff game scenario, maybe Durant just takes over. He's like, I got to do this. It's my last chance. But, Sengun does seem to be the most effective. Again, in the times we've watched, we've definitely tuned into the right games as well, too. But he's cooking Giannis. What was it, like a week or two ago on that one Sunday game we were randomly watching? He's got Giannis spinning around at the end of the fourth quarter. He's got Mobley spinning around. I mean, these are some of the best defenders in the league as well, too, at that spot. So it's not like, you're going back to watch. Whoa, speaking of was that Mobley with that three there? No, that wasn't Mobley. Who was that? Hey, I don't even know who we were watching at that point. I think they had Sengun's numbers up on the screen. He was like 27, 8, and 10, almost a triple-double at this point. Here, I guess we can just go look up good old Alperen Sengun's numbers just in general on the season and see how he is doing. But again, and hey, for those that did tune in to the live stream last night, we were kind of rambling about, guys, pause going, the sort of one-on-one battles in NBA history and how it feels like, I don't even know if we can repeat the rant. Hey, it is what it is. But it doesn't seem like guys necessarily attack. We have the best players sort of attacking each other offensively, defensively in the same way. And a big reason of that as well, too, is because, again, of the way I think a lot of the switching stuff works. And if a team does switch, how offenses are just programmed to take advantage of that, and how, teams are at this point just won't go away from switching as well, too. If that's a thing that they do, it seems like. But, we were talking about who could be like an old school comparison we were going to make for Wembanyama if he had a rival in this way would have been like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Elvin Hayes, and they had an iconic college battle. Should we look that up as well too? Hey, shout out, kind of a random rabbit trail from something that we were talking about last night, but still, I think obviously a worthy game to go back and remember, one of the greatest of all time. Shout out Elvin Hayes as well too. Speaking of all-time greats, first overall pick, of course, 68. The Big E chat, shout out, two-time All-American, 36.8 a game. Just a casual 30, 38, and 37 and 19 as a senior. Hey, chat, they do not put up the stats like they used to. That is for sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what that would look like. Would that be if somebody stayed for 4 years? If Klingon had stayed for 4 years, would he have been 35 a game and as a senior? I'm not sure. He was only there for 2 years, right? I'm trying to remember. But I guess, now we're really going down the rabbit trail at this point. It is what it is. But like if Karl Anthony Towns, because Karl Towns, of course, and I don't even think he was as good of a scorer in college. Yeah, he was only 10 points a game, but pretty efficient. But I don't think he even had really quite the display of moves or even the, I guess it's not to say that he's got like a crazy bag at this point. Again, he's a talented shot maker, but he is, of course, mobile, got a little bit of a dribble, a little bit perimeter oriented, and there was a time when I think maybe he was posting up a little bit more as well, too. It's not something that, again, Towns, if he developed that side of the game, wouldn't be surprising necessarily, even more so. But if he had stayed in college, maybe he would have been like a 30-point-a-game score. What was he at, like 6 rebounds? I guess he is a little lower on the rebounds, maybe. But again, in college, as a fourth-year senior, Karl Towns, just out there dominating. I guess Willie Cauley-Stein, though, would have been more of like the guy that would... Willie Cauley-Stein and, this like, okay, put anybody back in time and then, they're just going to dominate. LeBron, Giannis is going to score 70 points a game. But, like, the style of player that Willie Cauley-Stein would have actually been like a first ballot Hall of Famer if he had been in, and I guess if we make the statement that, great players, we can sort of move them around to different eras and they would still be great. I don't know if that sort of applies all the way around, but maybe there's still a way that, Willie Cauley-Stein hasn't been, but I think, again, it would have been pretty effective as the shot blocker guy kind of, and I don't know, again, they found a way to get points. Offensive rebounding, we have to go back and actually watch some of this stuff, but in Hayes as well too, like we're saying, one of the greats, so he actually could get buckets at every level. But, and I guess, yeah, they did have a couple of battles against UCLA. Oh, the one in 68 that one does not get remembered the same way. It is what it is. Oh, is that a regular season one that they won? I guess not in the tournament necessarily. UCLA unfortunately got the better of Houston a couple times in the tournament. 58-73 in 67, and then, yeah, like we said, 101 to 69 in 68, and then Hayes in that one only had 10 points as well too, 3 for 10. So unfortunate, chat. We didn't mean to call him out for that performance. It is what it is. Is this Kareem? I guess Kareem was like okay in this game. 7 for 14, pretty efficient, but 19 points. 19 and 18, just a casual 2020. Again, he was okay in this game, but Hayes, I guess, still making him work a little bit, but yeah, it's still the balance of the team. You got a couple other guys here pushing 20 as well too. Ken Spain. Not quite. Don Chaney? Hey, yo. I didn't really... is that a name sound familiar for some reason? I'm not sure. But, not necessarily able to have the same sort of performances around him as well, too, to keep up. So, it is what it is. UCLA, obviously, was dominant. So we got to go find the regular season game. Shout out. But still iconic, nonetheless. And still a... great accomplishment. Oh, we only have game logs for the tournament. Oh, well, it is what it is. Can we just look up Elvin Hayes versus, I guess, shout out, Lou Alcindor. I don't, be respectful. I guess it is what it is. Historic game of the century. So, yeah, obviously much, higher stakes than, a lot of other. Oh, Gus Johnson voice crack. Hey, yo, I guess, is it appropriate the way we said that? I'm not sure. But what are we even looking up here? Oh, yeah, Elvin Hayes versus Alcindor from Elvin Hayes versus Alcindor from 1968. Let's see here. Game of the century. Can we get some stats? 39 and 15 for Elvin Hayes. 71 to 69 victory, and then I guess he averaged 31-17. Lou Alcindor struggled in the matchup, scoring 15 points. So yeah, this one specifically, I guess, was dominated by Hayes. Oh, so this would have been in the regular season of 68. So they got the win in the tournament of 67, and then near the end of the regular season in 68, they matched up, or maybe, I don't know, what were the conferences like at this time? I don't think Houston and UCLA were ever in the same conference, but yeah, they matched up, and Elvin Hayes went crazy, I guess. Shout out. It is what it is. But yeah, iconic guys that actually kind of like battle each other. I guess, Russell and Wilt as well too. Magic and Bird. I don't know if those guys necessarily had like one-on-one matchups the same type of way, because Michael Cooper was a guy that ended up, kind of getting that reputation for the defense that he would play against Larry Bird. So, I mean, shout out. Obviously, it's the greatest of Larry Bird. That's like this guy guarded him, and that's his resume. Shout out. But, obviously, Iguodala won a Finals MVP. It's just like, you guarded LeBron. We got to give him an award, I guess. But, yeah, I guess all that's being said, Sengun is a guy that could he be the Elvin Hayes to Wemby's Kareem? I guess. Is that a pause? I don't know. But to his Abdul-Jabbar, I guess, either one could probably be a phrase. But, and maybe even visually as well, too, it could be kind of similar. I guess, Wemby is pretty tall, but obviously so is Kareem, and Hayes was, what, they said 6'9" there. Sengun grew, though, didn't he? Pause. So he was like, he might actually be 7 foot now. So, yeah, that is maybe even a little bit more of an even matchup as well, too, if we're just talking centers in the league. And then he has the footwork and the craftiness to be able to match up. And I think as, athletic and as good of a, as mobile as Wemby is, assuming he recovers from this injury, okay, he can still, Sengun can still probably hang with him off the dribble and not necessarily get too torched by Wembanyama in that aspect as well, too. And not to say that, again, he's just crazy taking guys off the dribble at this point as well, too. But they could actually be guys matched up each other one-on-one. And Wemby, I guess, will be fun for the center spot for this as well, too. Because late in games, you imagine he's going to want to take some certain matchups, like him and Jokic, assuming and that is a sort of a strength-dependent matchup as well, too. May need a little help. Get Cornette on the help defense there. But Giannis as well could be a little bit of a help defender. But, unfortunately, the Anthony Davis game was maybe a little bit like of a passing of the torch. And it's like, I don't know, passing of the torch. But like, hey, yo, Anthony Davis is like the first, you know, the first boss level center that he took down on his path to great. It's like the first Infinity Stone he collected with Anthony Davis. What are the Infinity Stones he has to collect, Chad? Hey, yo, Anthony Davis. I don't know if this is gonna be in order. Giannis and Jokic. Jokic is the one where he's got to like, you know, he's got to throw Luke Cornett off of the thing in Valhalla or whatever. What place is Vormir? I don't remember what it's called, but he's got to go to Vormir and like, you know, that's like the Zach Collins trade. Oh, you know, shout out. It is what it is. Or maybe, I guess the DeJounte Murray trade already happened. So I don't know. Will it be a? Oh, that'd be a terrible chat. I guess that would be like collecting the last stone. Would be, you know, pause. Would be, you know, like that kind of sacrifice in the movie. Would be the trade for that guy. You know, obviously, especially at this point as well too. It's the way some of these core guys are playing. Like if Giannis, and we're saying, you know, of course. It'd be Wemby like really getting the better of Giannis in a game is what we're kind of saying performance-wise here. You know, the way he was able to match up against Anthony Davis and just, you know, again, it is what it is. He just destroyed him in that game. You know, shout out. We obviously love Davis here, but, you know, Wemby's our guy. It is what it is. If it's a little Drake Kendrick situation, again, I guess we're taking the side, you know, we'll take a side, and I guess Anthony Davis will just be out of the rotation for a year. It is what it is. But, you know, if he's going to have the great performance against Giannis, or if they actually trade for Giannis and Giannis just joins him, I guess that would be a way that he kind of neutralizes him as a threat as well, too. But, you know, if they ended up in, I don't want to just say, like, oh, you know, trade Castle, trade Harper for Giannis, because, whoo, chat, as much as we love Giannis, that's a tough one. Again, that's a Gamora-level sacrifice right there. Oh, it is what it is. I mean, you really gotta shed a tear to think about it. You know, Giannis is an Infinity Stone for sure. I guess, you know, right now we'll see. Did the Infinity Stone ever pull a hamstring and miss a couple of weeks? I'm not sure. Is that a side effect? Just gets it. Giannis he is too powerful at times. You know, you never know. I guess the steroids have done too much, but you know, maybe if we got Giannis in the building, he could get Wemby on that bulking routine. Shout out that guy. I did see there was a post though. Speaking of posts, hey yo, there was a guy that I thought DM'd Giannis about something about his weight gain routine, and Giannis said something about PB&J. Should we see if that's out there? I mean, it has to be, but can we see if the Bing can find it? I guess that's always the struggle. Shout out. We'll download Google one of these days. It is what it is. Giannis. Can we say Giannis bulking DM, chat? Is that going to be a little bit of a pause? I'm not sure. Giannis bulking diet. Do we go 2025? I don't know. We'll just see what we get for Giannis meal. But there was specifically a guy that, hey, yo, I guess it is what it is. But, you know, that was just the only part of the conversation that we saw, I guess, that got leaked. But do we have to go... I guess, well, it is what it is. DM. Giannis bulking diet DM. And see what we get here. Oh, Bing is... we're calling him out, chat. It is what it is. Bing is terrible. I'll see if I can at least find it here. And maybe reference it. This is like... you know, the worst part of any sort of interaction with somebody is when they're trying to find something. And it's just like... it takes way too long. It is what it is. But there has to be something. Okay, wait a second. It may not be as readily available information as we thought. Giannis just... Was it Mark Jones? Giannis just told me he gained 51 pounds of muscle since coming into the NBA. Oh, so that's just I guess he was just bragging to Mark Jones about his progress. Shout out. But Mark Jones would be a guy, too, that would be asking about it. Shout out. Obviously, Mark Jones is a legend. But he definitely would, like, I could see that as, like, an opening line for Mark Jones. It's like when athletes are walking up to him, he's like, oh, Giannis, you know, looking good, or, you know, something like that. Some kind of crazy Mark Jones, you know, one-liner that he's able to pull. It is what it is. Giannis intense weight room session. Oh, I don't know what this is. Why we love the NBA. Shout out, I guess, to this page. I guess it's just Giannis bullying guys to the basket. Just a classic Giannis bullying highlight. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. I guess maybe we'll find it and, you know, reveal it later. I guess I remember it did have peanut butter and jellies as a big part of it. So then, not a hot take there from Giannis, but I think he did say eat a lot of PB&Js. And there was another guy that I saw recently. I think it was Blueface, maybe. just got out of prison. I'm not sure. I thought I just saw him on maybe it was a clip of him on a live stream. Was it with Blackboy Max maybe? Who was asking him about his diet as well too, because apparently, I guess, Blackboy Max with the Mark Jones, hey, Blueface looking good over there. He's like, how'd you get the progress? What are the secrets? And he was saying something about a lot of mashed potatoes, just eating trays of mashed potatoes. So, and maybe he said, were they serving mac and cheese in there, or did we just start making that ourselves in the meal prep and just decide to do that and mashed potatoes? But we definitely added mashed potatoes, and I mean, obviously PB&Js. If they're not a staple, I feel like the correlation for, I guess if you're watching the NBA, you're probably to some degree play basketball. Again, are you currently playing at some level, college? I get, could be like some kind of pro level overseas, some kind of city league. Do you just go out and play in the park? Do you go shoot hoops alone? Like, it could be any level, but if you're watching the NBA, there's no way that you're just not uninspired or not inspired at some point to just go out and play basketball. But if you're going out and playing basketball, I feel like the correlation of people that actually go out and play basketball, and again, obviously everybody, but that to PB&Js might be, like, PB&J to basketball might be the number one food to sport that we have, honestly. I'm not sure. Maybe PB&J is just the number one. Maybe PB&J to sport is just like the number one food to event type of thing as well too. I guess, it's probably not. I don't know if this is a whole draft, but I mean, the first one that immediately I thought of after I said that was popcorn to movies is pretty iconic. If you're thinking of a food associated with a thing, I guess, again, food associated with a thing could be turkey with Thanksgiving as well too. If we're going to go like a holiday or something like that, that feels a little more specific, a little more of a different lane. But yeah, popcorn and movie is iconic. Again, I guess if we're staying in sport lane, I think baseball could be the number one concession sport. That would be, hey, yo, chat, lock it in. Summer 2026, we're doing a concessions deep dive in just sports in general. We're going to figure out which sports has the best concessions. We're going to do a full investigative research travel vlog situation, I'm not sure, and, figure out what the right answer is. But just from preliminary research, some early posts, some kind of, just whatever kind of happens in the feed, and now I'm kind of like, obviously randomly making a conclusion from all of that, but I feel like baseball might be the best. I'm not obviously a guy, shouldn't say obviously, but I haven't been to a ton of live sports across all of the different, different types of sports and then different types of stadiums. And, once you even get to the game as well, too, at this stage, it's like, we're probably the concession stands is probably McDonald's afterwards. It's going to be a little bit more affordable option. Maybe we're going to have, one sort of, the splurge is just like we're buying a burger at the game, and then if you really, I think, really want to I guess the concession stands themselves do get a little bit higher levels at some places. And like I'm saying, baseball games, they do get a little bit crazy. But, obviously if you get into the suite level stuff as well too, which, we're going to have to do some real work to, I guess, connect and see if we can, send out some emails to get in some of these suites. Hey, yo, we're doing it for a show. Does that count? But, yeah, well, I guess workshop that idea and get back to you. But summer 2026, a little preview there. We'll drop a teaser trailer at some point. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, whatever we were going to say about baseball concessions, I guess at this point is probably not going to remember that. Oh well. But yeah, hot dogs and baseball. That's what it was. Iconic movie food pairings. We were going to say hot dogs and baseball is pretty iconic as well too. Maybe baseball fans would say something else. I don't know, like a giant pretzel or something. I don't know what is really iconic at a baseball game. Maybe peanuts. I don't know. We go ask people from way back. I'm not sure. Babe Ruth. What do you like to eat at a baseball game? But even I think he was just really throwing back. I don't know. Throwing back the hot dogs as well too. It is what it is. I think that was like a classic. Speaking of PB&Js, I think it was like part of Babe Ruth's pregame diet was like 2 PB&Js and 16 hot dogs and just a bowl of popcorn while he was up to bat. It's just like between swings, he's just, I think, eating and, dip and stuff. It is what it is. Sports were just more fun back then, chat. I mean, and I guess on the PGA, you don't necessarily drink on the PGA Tour, but you do drink while you golf. And that is kind of again, maybe that's a little more recreational, but, well, I guess I shouldn't say you don't, you know, do you drink and play basketball? I guess maybe, not, it depends on what you say is a typical recreational basketball game. I guess, it depends what the day of the week is. I'm not sure, but, I guess, it's not, I would say it would probably be impossible. I guess, like, what are we saying here? It'd be impossible to go play golf without drinking, Chad, is a crazy statement, but you get what we're saying. It's obviously just the vibes of that is a little bit more common than, oh, you want to go get some shots up? Well, let's go, like, swing by the gas station and get some Coronas as well, too. Like, that's obviously how it goes. I guess, the Fast and Furious barbecue, Vin Diesel, he plays basketball left-handed. He has to because he's got a Corona in the right hand. It is what it is. So, shout out. He's amping extras. Maybe he can cross over, switch it around at some point. That's the surprising move. But shout out Vin Diesel on the Sixers. I don't know. Vin Diesel versus Joel Embiid. Shout out. Is it a sad day, chat? If that's I mean, it is what it is. Joel Embiid's torching Vin Diesel in basketball. I don't know if it's a hot take in 2025, but I will take that stance. I would take that bet. I would take that matchup. I don't know if it like a Kevin Hart, Draymond Green 3-point. It's not a skill contest. If it was a 3-point battle like Kevin Hart versus Draymond, then it's like, okay, there's a little bit more room for something crazy to happen. But if you're actually playing a game, then shout out Embiid should probably have the advantage there. But we'll see. Did he even? I guess he's probably out with an injury right now. It is what it is. Shout out. We're pro Embiid on this pod. McCain 2 for 7 tonight, 5 points, only 14 minutes. A little bit of a turn. Shout out. Obviously, that would have been a really great. We say would have been. He's a second year. Has the potential to still be a great 3-person core there. But yeah, obviously the other two, Maxey and Edgecombe's numbers are definitely in a little bit of a different tier as well too. Wofford, no triple-double tonight. 3 turnovers, 2 assists. Oh, we'll just look at certain parts of the box score, I guess, and focus on that. 4 turnovers for Edgecombe, 6 assists. 9 turnovers for 3 turnovers for Maxey, 9 assists. Okay, I was gonna say, whoa. Okay, that is not great. But yeah, Wofford, I guess, shout out. Is that a Wofford of something bad from turnovers there? I'm not sure. Oh, speaking of, Scotty Barnes, 5 assists, 6 turnovers. Yikes. So some sloppy play. Pause. In the Raptors Sixers game here, we got Ingram 7 for 10 though. Shout out. Can we look up like a pre-post Glorilla at the court, numbers? What have been the numbers since he's been spotted with Glorilla? And, even with Clay, I guess on the season, Clay has probably been winning Instagram a little bit more than he's been winning the actual box score this year. But it still feels like Clay's having and he's obviously, again, having a great season. But it does still feel like Clay is having an impactful season, I guess we should say, because of the fact that, and I guess that's just him being, again, still, and he's famous as well too, even outside of what's going on, but he is still obviously one of the more notable, newsworthy, in the headlines, I guess we should say, types of players that we have for this year. But I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still like having a good season. It's like, oh, Clay's back to like still when he's out there, obviously being effective. I mean, you still have obviously time on him, as a thing that is a factor still. Shout out, it is what it is. Oh, I guess maybe don't do the pre and post for pause for Klay Thompson. He's having his worst season. Maybe Clay's distracted, chat. We're gonna start making those takes. Hey, yo, are we gonna start writing for Stephen A on First Take? I don't know. It feels like is that a take that has been thrown out there at this point? But what do you say, chat? 33.8% from the field is crazy. That is, I mean, he's 31% from 3, so he's still higher than Cade, and I guess who else were we looking at as well too that was at 20%? Should probably be a little bit higher than that. There's another guy we need to call out from 3-pointer, chat. Was Luka at 20% this year? Maybe it was Luka. I'm not sure. So, maybe he's not too far off. So, he's still a little bit better than some people, but 33% from the field is wild. I guess he is basically, of course, only taking threes. So, he's 1 for Yeah, I guess it's weird math, from 2. He's 1.1 for 2.6. So he's almost like 50%, but he's kind of 40%, which makes him 33%, I guess, because of how low the 3-point percentage is. So, he's 1 for 2 from 2-point field goal, 1 for 2.5. He's not really doing too much there. But still, at the end of the day, 31% from 3, where, again, he was a little bit like this last year, 39% from 3, 41% from the field. But he was still at 4.5 2-pointers a game. So he's still at least, getting into the mid-range, getting to the basket, getting some type of other shot than a 3-pointer, at least once a quarter. Last season, 5, before that, almost 6, 7.5 there at the end at Golden State is, again, shout out, obviously, Klay Thompson is just, there's going to be a basketball career that is going to play out regardless of how the off-court stuff plays out, but, again, maybe it's just good timing that, there are other fortunate, it's just, again, maybe it's a good timing for him to be focusing on some, should we say that's crazy, chat, to be focusing on off-the-court stuff. It is what it is. I guess, we're just saying that, we're only saying that we're going to celebrate Klay Thompson's career whenever it does end, or, him maybe Klay. I know that we maybe say this about a lot of guys, but Klay does seem like he could be a good teammate guy for a long time. Not to say that, hey, is he going to turn into a bad teammate in his late 30s, but I'm saying the Udonis Haslem All-Stars, the Nick Collison All-Stars, he could be in the guys that you will pause. He could be as with the category of guys that stick around on a franchise for a while as like a 13th man. Could he go back to Golden State? And I guess he could just maybe be like a coach at some point. That's always a possibility. I guess maybe there is contract stuff as well too. So you do have to get, I guess, maybe a little goodwill with a franchise for them to have you around in that type of way. Again, Udonis Haslem was obviously, just a stalwart member of the Heat organization that was just deserved to be there regardless of, it's like, okay, Udonis Haslem, you want to be in the building? It's like, you get to be in the building. You're a great guy. So shout out. I guess the TV money's got to be pretty good. And obviously the TV gig as well too. You don't really got a lot of pressure, I guess, of being like the 13th man of the team, but you still have the, I guess, cycle of the season that you do have to go through. And then I would assume your off season is still a little bit easier though, where, you're still, again, I'm not saying you're not putting in work and you're not still in a way trying to get better and improve. That's just something that you're going to want to do as a person. Your basketball is your job, even if you're not, maybe logging as many minutes on the court, but you're still going to want to get better at your job. You're still going to get better on the court, see what you can do, maximize your athletic ability while you have it. But, again, still, we'll see if Klay actually, like, if it's with the Mavs, if it's with another team, but I could see him, I guess we've seen Chris Paul, if Klay wants to bounce around and just add jerseys to the basketball reference page, it is what it is. There needs to be like a tab where it's like the end of the career tab, where maybe you like click on it, pause it, like expands. It's, it was like, okay, now here are all the rest of the jerseys for like the last 3 years where he was on like 8 teams and just, just trying to play in the league. Because as much as that is like a weird thing to have on your run, and again, as much, well, it's fun for the superstar player, of course, to play for the franchise the whole time. Speaking of, his teammate Steph obviously is one that we're hoping, I guess, are we hoping? To some degree. Would it be a little bit fun to see him on Charlotte? I guess, does LaMelo have to be there? Would it be a little bit fun to see him with LaMelo? I don't know why specifically. I don't know why the Charlotte thing would be cool. Would it really? Because Charlotte is, they've obviously been kind of a, respectfully a poo-poo organization for the century. It is what it is. But the guys in the building now do seem to be a little bit more on the, the basketball side of things, trying to get that locked back in. So we'll see if that actually does start to translate into success. Steph Curry with Brandon Miller and Saloon, and who else do they have there? I don't know if Colin Sexton is a part of the core. Is Colin Sexton a part of the trade? Call 2025, 2026, a little Colin Sexton and some picks for Steph Curry. Does that interest anybody? I don't know, but you know who that interest is, Chet? Nobody. Well, shout out to Colin Sexton. He's great, but I don't know if you're gonna. I don't know if just him and picks, the contracts don't work. It's really the only problem there, I think. But I guess again, he could be a guy that obviously sticks for his career the whole time. But I guess even Tony Parker had the random season where it's like, can we do this for one more year? And again, at some point as a franchise, you got to be like, I guess if you want to run back, do you get as many seasons running it back like respectfully as you had good seasons. So if Tony Parker has like 15 good seasons for San Antonio, does he get to run it back for 15 years before the Spurs are like, okay, now you go to Charlotte? I don't know what the rules are there, but maybe it should be a couple more than just one, especially when we're going to be bad right after. I mean, you know, with Kawhi and stuff, we were trending to be still obviously a competitive team, but he could have been around. I think there would have been a spot for him as an okay guy. Maybe he still probably wanted to play a little bit though as well too. Get him and Batum teammates. It was, you know, a lifelong goal of his, I think, to be teammates with Nick Batum at some point. Shout out, you know, you gotta obviously admire the connection to the French teammates. The French connection, chat. Shout out, obviously, rest in peace, Gene Hackman. You got to admire though the French connection between the superstars. It is what it is, and I guess he wasn't necessarily a part of the team that was battling the Team USA in the Olympics, but you know, it did remind us of that when we were speaking of French connection. Shout out, of course, to that Paris team. We might be queuing up the highlights for that a little bit later, because that, I guess, when we that'll be the what YouTube video will we watch while we have a snack later? Probably highlights from Paris in the Olympics. Steph Curry just going crazy. It is what it is, and I guess because they had Steph on the Mind the Game pod recently as well too, I think that was a topic that they brought up as to whether or not those guys would be competing again. And you know, I think I don't think LeBron was shutting it down. He did shut it down, but you know, mid-40s. I think he might actually be like out of the mix at that point. I don't want to say that. You know, Team USA may be a little bit different than just an NBA team. As limited as the NBA is, there are more spots in the NBA than there are on Team USA. So it is a little bit more realistic for him to be in the league as a guy hanging out if he wants to be, than just a guy hanging out on Team USA. Again, maybe he's earned that as well too. But Team USA is one. It's like, okay, we can't just like waste a roster spot here. You know, we kind of need a guy. We need options. So, you know, LeBron, the late game hero, if you need him, guys getting in foul trouble, an injury, unfortunate, something, you know, subbing in at 42 to save the day is definitely a possibility. But, you know, again, league is good right now. And what are we talking about? LeBron back last night, just casually, after missing, you know, almost the first month of the season, just a casual little double-double, what did he have, like 11 and 12 assists? And I think, speaking of the assist-turnover ratio, like we were earlier, I think he had like 1 turnover on those 12 assists. So just dicing up the Utah Jazz, chat, at 41, just can go out there, just put the work on them. Hey, yo, pause. It is what it is. But it is crazy. It is crazy. At 41, Keontae George does not stand a chance. And LeBron is 41. You know, there are still guys in the league. Do we have to pull up the Utah Jazz roster? Who cannot guard LeBron at 41? We found out. I think he was... we can go back and watch the game highlights as well too. But he was, you know, like 5 for 7 again. It was a game back type of game. The Utah Jazz might be a little bit of a different team here. 2025 Jazz. Oh, that's last year. The 17 win from the previous season, Utah Jazz. Does Markkanen get an exemption from this? Or does Markkanen go in the category of can't be stopped by LeBron? I mean, you would look at the season this year, and the season that Markkanen is having, I don't know if that's the right way to, probably not the right way to say it, but the season that he is having is, you know, obviously really great. And the fact that LeBron hasn't logged any minutes at this point, you would probably say a better season than LeBron has had. You know, is it a better season than LeBron could have, I guess, is the question that we would ask. It is a debate for sure. I guess we could pull up the numbers. Could LeBron get to 40 a game over a couple of games stretch? You know, it'd be a little bit to ask. Oh, chat, Wi-Fi issues here. Hopefully we're not going to have to go like, you know, a couple nights in a row to make up, you know, one episode sort of worth. I'm not sure. We'll see what ends up happening here. I don't know if it's a good time to go to break and see if we can try to clear out, or maybe just, you know, like close out a bunch of these tabs that we have open as well too. I'm not sure. We will try to clean up the technical stuff, chat, and of course power through. But yeah, we'll go to break here real quick. Of course, stay tuned. We've got more NBA action, more Wednesday night NBA hoops to follow along to, and we will be back to continue watching the games. Don't go there. All right, we are back. First quarter of the next ESPN game is already wrapped up. Cause we got little Mavs, and we got our guy D'Lo has been, I guess I don't know how much criticism. It's D'Angelo Russell. I don't know if he necessarily wants to get online when people are talking basketball about him. But there was a great clip of him. We'll call it great because he's our guy. But a great clip of him just dribbling around for 21 seconds and then firing it to Najee Marshall with 3 seconds left. Najee Marshall, a little step back three, and it almost went in. So I don't know if it counts as a good play or not, but it was just sort of iconic D'Angelo Russell again, sort of, it is what it is, sort of ball hog possession. And I guess there is a version of him attacking that, or just a player in general attacking for 20-some seconds that I guess could be effective. Maybe. We'd have to, really, I guess, get, what is the app like that everybody in the media uses? Synergy? If we got Synergy and then maybe figured out if there's a way to filter that. Good possession, player dribbles for 20 seconds. It would, I guess, like an end of the clock, obviously end of the quarter scenario where a guy, I guess D'Angelo Russell is always doing it intentionally to some degree, but, that is obviously a little bit more of the design of the team. That makes sense. But, like within the mix of a normal quarter, a guy just dribbling around for 20 seconds and then throwing it to a teammate. Maybe if it's not Jokic, how many guys in the league, as they're showing a highlight of Jokic, just a casual little behind the back pass. Though I think that is one that is doable in game. And I don't know, I don't know if it's becoming a lost art here. Speaking of, chat, I guess we got a little basketball just off screen. I'm going to kick it over here. We need a little basketball footrest. I think is only appropriate, chat. It is what it is. Can we get it? Oh, just out of range. There we go. Feet game strong, chat. Hey, yo. I don't know. Pause. But we do have the basketball footrest now underway. So we are good to go. Locked in. Ready for some second quarter Knicks versus Mavs. Shout out. Little Brunson revenge game. Shout out Towns as well too. Yabusele. Did Yabusele have a Mavs run in there? I'm not sure, but 8 points for Brunson to start. And we got to double check. Hey, yo, what's up with our guy Cooper Flagg? Because I was gonna say did not see him. And if D'Angelo Russell feels like he needs to take over, then obviously, maybe there's even something extra wrong there as well too. Okay, we got an illness, so obviously we wish him well, but. And hopefully it's not worse than just illness as well too. But if it's I guess maybe get him quarantined off, get him a mask, chat. Hey yo, but hopefully if we get him masked off and quarantined and a little vaccine, he'll be good to go. I don't know what the steps are at this point, but it does seem like something that he could obviously recover from and be back. So hopefully not long term. Obviously Davis and Kyrie, bigger pieces. Ayo, I don't know. Davis bigger piece at this point. Pause because pause because he gained weight or because he's a good player. Got him, chat. Ayo, again, we're gonna be writing for Stephen A on First Take. Shout out. We're just a little preview of some of the lines. It is what it is. That one might have to be workshop though. Though, do we have to sneak in a couple of maybe Stephen A could pause this type of lines? Just obviously, for you guys, for the audience. We get Stephen A saying some funny stuff. Does Stephen A have writers? Is Stephen A the Drake of the sports media? I don't know. I feel like Stephen A probably would say he's a Kendrick. I don't know if he'd want to, and shout out. It would be funny if somebody, was. I guess it's not, because I get the hey yo, we're back, chat. Part 2 of the beef conversation. Pause. I get the whole. I get it. It is cool, obviously. I'm not saying, hey, yo, Kendrick over here writing his own raps, blah, blah, blah. I that is very, I guess, important. I get that is great that the artist is able to bring more of the vision to the table. But is it bad that Drake has songwriters to some sense in a legacy type of way? Again, I guess, we can have the conversations. I'm not necessarily going to sit here and say that totally takes him off the table as a writer. And again, I think that is honestly speaking of the bigger picture pod, shout out, which we mentioned earlier, maybe this was something that they mentioned, or was this a button? I don't remember. I guess, everybody talking about him being a pop star, but, pop stars with this, maybe this was on Higher Learning. I'm not sure. Again, I just don't remember where I heard this point, but somebody saying about the fact that is just a more common thing that pop stars use songwriters like that. And I think that would be something that you look to his career is obviously makes sense. Is I think earlier on he would have been more writing his own stuff and then maybe moved into using songwriters as he, got more mainstream. And he still had a focus on bringing obviously a heavy hip hop style and, other influences throughout his music. But again, if we're talking legacy, I guess, if we're talking the legacy of specific things like that. But then that gets to, Jokic fouls out with 2 minutes left. So we got Denver up by 11 points. I guess 3 minutes left, 2:45. He's got 28 on the game. But Derek Queen, I think, was having a little bit of a game as well, too. So is Derek Queen going to cook now? Now this is hey, we got Valanciunas for these moments right here. For if Jokic randomly fouls out on a Wednesday night versus the Pelicans and Derek Queen is cooking, can Jokic get in there and Jokic. Can Jokic go off the bench? I don't think that's how it works. Can Valanciunas go off the bench and stand in there and hold up? But I do think that, and I don't think that we're going to sit here and, we have to defend Jokic over Valanciunas. I don't think that that's a conversation that we had. But I do think that, again, just the stylistic stuff, it's like, can Valanciunas work on the same spot on the courts in some of the places that Jokic can. I think Jokic is, clearly a better three-point shooter, but Jokic as a defender is a better defender than Valanciunas. And I think, just again, I test as well too. Like he's just a more spacious guy than Valanciunas. It does seem like he is, a little bit more present on the court than Valanciunas. Is that a great way to say it, chat? I don't know. Just this guy a little bit more present than some of these other people. Hey, Zion Williamson in the past, Luka Doncic back when he was in Dallas, a little bit more present on the court than he was when he was on the Men's Health magazine. It is what it is. But that could also be a pause as well too. It just depends on how you look at it. But again, pause. Derek Queen getting the inbound. Ooh, is he gonna run point here? Shout out, taking Valanciunas off the dribble. Oh, spin chat, spin one way, spin back the other way, bank it in. Derek Queen. Shout out for those that were tuned into the lost tapes. There'll be the lost tapes as soon as IT gets this episode up. That tuned into the lost tapes last night, and we're hearing us rant about Andrew Bynum versus Shaquille O'Neal when Shaq was on the Heat and Bynum was on the Lakers, and they had a little back and forth battle at one point. Is this getting flashbacks of that, chat? We got Queen versus Valanciunas is the 2025 version of it. But again, Valanciunas is one of the funny guys that gets, I think, shout out Russillo always, like, when, not always, not say, hey, Russillo repeating jokes over here, calling him out. But he's definitely maybe a time or two. Funny every time, shout out. But talking about footwork, like who can, post up still in the NBA. It's like, oh, it's just like Valanciunas now. So, maybe, I don't know, Vooch as well, too, can maybe be in that conversation. Yeah, again, Jokic, there are guys as well, too, that, have great footwork. And his footwork expanded. Again, is it not just posting footwork? Obviously, is that a lost art? Sure. But is there other kinds of footwork off the dribble that have been mastered by other people? For sure. But, again, is Valanciunas a good post-up player? And one of the better ones in the NBA in, recent past. I'm sure there's probably some points per possessions that you could look at. There he is right there, chat. Little mid-range jumper. He's again, I guess maybe he's not the defender, but he's a good mid-range shot maker. He can, and I guess maybe he can heat up as well too. Would not be surprised if he had like a sneaky little like microwave badge or something in 2K. Do we have to look up Vooch or what's it, Valanciunas's 2K badges? Okay, Jokic tonight, 28, 11, and 12, 28 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists. Derek Queen, though, and I guess here we can just pull up the numbers as well, too, because he was pretty close. And, Wemby versus Jokic, one of the, I guess we were mentioning Wemby versus Davis. Was that earlier tonight or last night? I don't remember now, but we were talking about that battle at some point within the past 24 hours. So another great Wembanyama performance, obviously, that, early in his career that gets referenced would be the one versus Jokic at the late in the season, and the way it affected the Denver in the playoffs as well too, and change their seeding, change their path, maybe even change, who knows, because of that, the outcome of what happened that year. But, maybe is this the Derek Queen version of that tonight? I guess, with it being game 15, it's not necessarily as impactful for the playoffs as directly, that game again, directly influencing seeding, but still, I guess they won't get this win. But for the individual game, it is obviously a raising type of performance. 30 for Queen, 39-4, 4 turnovers, but he's a rookie, so shout out. So it's a lot, and the fact that he can be good as well too this year, and if it doesn't even translate to wins, it's tough because, again, at 2-12. No, man, they're the third pick in the lottery right now. Like, the Hawks are gonna get Dembasta or Boozer because of that trade. Like, and Derek Queen's been really good, and I'm about to defend. Am I gonna be like Chuck Klosterman here? Hey, a little Bill Simmons ringer reference. Shout out. I guess reference Russillo. Got to reference both sides, but R.I.P. But him trying to, I guess, recently on the pod defend Nico Harrison on the trade. Not to say if you check the tapes, we didn't take a little bit of a... Did we take a pro Anthony Davis stance? I guess, shout out. It is what it is. Were we saying that the Mavs won the trade? No. It would just like... I guess if you check the tapes, the angle was more... there is a world where it's fun to see Anthony Davis as a lead guy. Like, that is like a take that probably is like Anthony Davis has like 2 good games, 3 good games, and then you're like, oh, look at this, like this is fun. But, you know, again, being pro Davis, it's like, okay, yes, they won the trade. Yes, Luka is the better player here. But Davis is a great player, and it is going to be fun to see him as a lead guy. And unfortunately, you know, at this point in his career, maybe just not quite the right timing for him to. And, you know, he had his run in New Orleans as well, too. But, you know, that team consistently being competitive around him, maybe not always at that level. And, you know, who knows what this Mavs team would have been as well, too. But the Cooper Flag, you know, obviously hey, you know, what could have been of Cooper Flag, Davis, and Kyrie. You know, I don't know if we're already going to put that into a what have been type scenario, but it does feel like it is gonna head down that path a little bit. But that is obviously a combo. And not to say that there haven't been combos, again, of veterans and younger players where you go, oh, the best version of these guys. I mean, the best version of Shaq on that Cavs team, obviously, you know, take prime Shaq and put him with LeBron. It's a pretty good, you know, 1-2. But, you know, obviously they didn't get that version of Shaq. It is what it is. He's later in his career. That's how time works. So, you know, unfortunately now, maybe the Anthony Davis that you're getting on the Mavs is not the Anthony Davis that you had in New Orleans. And as much as, like I'm saying, as much as I would want that as a Anthony Davis fan, it just may not be the world that is. It's just not the time. We're gonna have to get Loki out here to put us in a different timeline. And it's like, can we find one where it's almost the same and Wemby's good and Daniel Jones is still good and, you know, Bryce Underwood still committed to Michigan and all this stuff still is like, you know, a positive sports upside, but Davis is like gonna have a good late 30s is one of the tweaks, I guess, that we would make in this REM sports timeline. Would that directly impact the Spurs title chances? You know, it could, because like we were saying of the in-state rivalries and yeah, obviously the playoff matchups that they could have as well too. But again, late 30s, it's not like it's hopefully all of Wembanyama's career. And, you know, one season, you know, if Wemby's going to win 3 titles, you know, Davis, I guess, can win 1 in the 5 years. Let's see here. If they said that Wemby could win 4 titles, or Wemby could win 3 titles and Anthony Davis could win 1. I don't know, chap. 4 titles is pretty tempting. And, you know, pause. Can we say the feeling never gets old? I guess if we're talking about NBA championships and you've been lucky to experience one, Chen, you know, I think you would say it's probably it's probably true. But I guess Dallas right now at 4-11, sitting somewhere in the top 10. It's a little tied up here with some of these teams being the same record. But yeah, New Orleans at number 3 with that pick going to Atlanta is tough. So New Orleans actually, of course, you know, I guess they could want to win games, you know, as well too. Try it that way. But they could also, you know, actually hope that the lottery doesn't go their way. And David Griffin's not still there, right? There's no way, because, you know, he's been actually one of the luckier lottery guys that we've had. I can't believe, did we say that right? One of the luckier lottery guys? You know, he's multiple number 1 picks and multiple generations. What did he draft? Oh no, he had Kyrie. That's what Kyrie and was it the Wiggins pick and then, or no, did he have Bennett and Kyrie and Wiggins and Zion? All of those guys, maybe? I'm not sure. So shout out. I mean, you know, literally maybe the best just opportunities at number 1 picks that any single general manager has ever had. Could you make that case? I mean, typically when a general manager has a shot at a generation number 1 pick, they don't go back to getting another number 1 overall pick. But you know, I guess David Griffin did, and obviously that Cavs team, you know, did end up being good as well too. You know, LeBron did end up going there. They did end up winning a title, but it's not like you look back and say, oh, you know, shout out David. You know, I don't know if David Griffin's going to go in the Basketball Hall of Fame for that one. That's for sure. To be honest, I don't even remember if he was the general manager the year that they won the title. Shout out to Dan Gilbert. I guess, I mean, he's the owner, so it's not like that changes. But I guess, you know, for us knowing that he is kind of one of the more famous owners in the NBA as well too. I mean, for better or worse, as well. But yeah, I honestly have no idea who their general manager was when they had LeBron. It is, well, no, they did. It was Kobe Altman. Did they get him right after? Was he maybe that last year? Was he the guy that didn't trade the pick? Stood up to LeBron, stood up to Clutch. I don't know. But I don't remember when he got into the timeline. And I guess, yeah, I don't remember if David Griffin was who he took over from or not, or if there's a guy Was James Jones the general manager there at some point for a couple of seasons? I don't even remember. But yeah. Again, with David Griffin being out of that's why they fired him, honestly. They had to fire David Griffin, not because he gave up the first round pick, but they're like, I mean, yes, we can't win the lottery because of that, but if we can't win the lottery, David Griffin's going to win the lottery. So if he wins the lottery, it's going to Atlanta. So we can't have that. So, Atlanta, they actually have the opportunity to have a high first round pick because, again, San Antonio has theirs. So, and they want to be good just in general. Anyways. Ooh, and they also have Cleveland's as well, too. Is that the DeAndre Hunter trade? So, Cleveland 22nd. Again, are they going to be as good last year record-wise? They're going to be the 30th best team in the league? Maybe not, but are they going to be a lottery team? Also probably not. I guess we don't want to jinx them. But, Atlanta at least, having 2 chances there, having 2 top 20 picks, one of them being number 3 is pretty crazy. But is that a sneaky, is the best? Well, I guess, see, the Derek Queen factor does make it interesting because Jalen Johnson, Zach Recherche, Dyson Daniels, the core that Atlanta has, obviously. I mean, even Trae Young himself. Like, as much as you want to maybe pick apart Trae Young's game for what it is, and as much as, Trae Young might not be our ideal player for if we're building a team. And again, if you bring in a guy like Dembasta or Boozer in 2 or 3 years, is Trae Young even the best player on the team? I mean, is that already a debate now as well, too, with Jalen Johnson and the potential that he has as a player. But again, we talked about Trae Young has, I think, underrated just point guard skills and setting those guys up. And there's a way that they can manage, of course, without him, in the ball movement and the perimeter stuff. And they're a defensive team that can fly around and sort of lean into that identity as well, too. And again, if they get firing from the 3-point range, it is a team that can be effective with the size posit they have. But Trae Young's point guard abilities, if he is committed to that, getting those guys set up, again, he could make Dembasta better if he was playing like a point guard. So, or, Dembasta could make him better. Again, I don't know if that's going to be the place you want to be long term, but again, obviously, point being, whatever happens there, it is a good place for any of those young, talented players to end up. In theory, you would say probably better than New Orleans, with all due respect to the New Orleans franchise, but the Atlanta Hawks, again, with the talent there. But that's what I'm saying. Derek Queen now, you put Dembasta, you put Boozer next to Derek Queen. It is potentially 2 high-level guys. So, again, New Orleans, unfortunately, giving up that opportunity, like we're saying, to Atlanta. But there is also a case where, like we're saying, from the player side of it, it is a bit of a sigh of relief where they're like, okay, now at least I get to go into a better situation than, of course, what was potential. But, and it still is, as Rem butchers the English third person as well, too. As we butcher the English language here. But, yeah, I mean, like we're saying, New Orleans may still not be as great as Atlanta, but it could still be you could still have other good players to play with. And not necessarily just be on like a talent desert as well, too, where it felt like maybe some of the franchises have been like that in the past. And, we've talked about this with past classes. I mean, it's not necessarily, you look around a little bit, maybe Sacramento, again, that's kind of like the 3 years from now. It's just like who's going to be on the team long term outside of, I guess you could say, like Keegan Murray. But even then, you just never know. They start trading guys, Somebody could overpay for Keegan Murray. Make no mistake, if we're running a team, is that the first thing we do? We call for Sacramento and overpay for Keegan Murray? I mean, the double overpay. Overpay him on the contract, overpay him on the trade. Shout out, Keegan Murray. We're going to make sure he's well taken care of and, I guess, well valued as well, too. But, yeah, we'll see, I guess, again, what happens long term with that Sacramento group. But like we said before, and like we will continue to say, because I hope people do give him credit for the talent and can you give him credit for the talent and overlook the front office mistake? I know that, again, they kind of are going to be simultaneously brought up. And, speaking of Bill Simmons earlier, shout guys like that, of course, Stephen A, again, it's just going to be, that is going to be the conversation. So really the only way that it does work, like we're saying, is if New Orleans does not do well in the lottery and they end up getting like the 9th pick. And I guess, but how far could they even fall back as well, too? with just being the record that they have. If they could probably only like fall back to 5 or 6. So again, there is the potential that now looking at the name value of that, you do fall in a bit of a different range. But, again, this draft just does have talent, I think, in the top 10 just in general. I don't know. And, the scoring numbers have been really good as well, too. But to have 5 guys at 20 a game early in the season and, I guess 7 guys at 20 a game earlier in the season is pretty crazy. And again, we're on per game here, not the per 36. Conference play, level of competition goes up. The numbers could even out a little bit, and maybe 1 or 2 stay in the 20-point range. You have a couple fall down into that 19-point range. Not to say that again, it's the end-all be-all threshold for a draft prospect to get to 20 a game, but I'm just saying for the freshmen to be this effective, potentially this many freshmen to be this effective is pretty great for these teams in this draft. So I mean, yeah, even Sacramento at 5, could even get a name here. Memphis at 6 as well too. I don't know, even like the 7th and 8th pick, and like we're saying, generational prospect, it doesn't have to be the 7th pick in the draft, has to be like a number 1 pick in any other draft. That would be crazy, obviously great for that draft class, but for a 7th pick, these do feel like good prospects over here as well too. So I guess if we're just going points per game, again, Thomas Haw at 19 a game this year. Shout out. Maybe we just have to give him more respect. It is what it is. Him going to Boston, Chad. Oh, Tankathon. I don't know the reverse stereotype there with the Boston drafting, but I don't know. We look, who have they taken over the last couple? Who did just take Baylor Shireman in their last draft, or was that 2 drafts ago? I'm not sure. So maybe Boston not doing themselves any favors as well too. Okay, Chad. We'll see if we can cue up a little replay here or something, because the only other game we can potentially access at this point is Blazers Bulls, a fun one for sure, but unfortunately because of the local restrictions, we are not able to watch that game live. We'll have to go back in 3 days and rewatch that game some morning, I guess, before we take off for work. But yeah, that'll be a fun one 3 days from now to go back and see. But yeah, we can't rewatch the Thunder yet. It is what it is. We got Dagnaw's press conference. Okay, shout out. I think Dagnaw's press conference is a pretty good one. And I don't know if we have to go NFL corner here for a second, but I did see this also on the gram. And if we're going to bring up things that we saw on the gram, this one is worth mentioning, of course. R.I.P. Marshawn Nealon. And the Cowboys were honoring his legacy this week. And it's great that they were able to get a win as well, too, to help honor that. And, I don't want to, take advantage of bringing up a moment or something like that as well too. But it was really awesome, I think, the way that Schottenheimer, the Cowboys coach, navigated the post-game locker room. And, again, I'm not, what is, everybody's going to have a display an emotional reaction differently, to a tragic event like that. So, again, a person being genuine, however that may be, is obviously, again, a very sincere and respectful and awesome thing to see. But again, just to see him have an authentic reaction in that way, it's just a special moment. And, again, it just really showed his real life leadership as well too. And again, you really, as a football coach, when you say things like leadership and stuff, obviously, when it's like, and especially, you hear college guys as well too, talk about how they're able to, impact and shaping lives and stuff like that. And that stuff is all obviously very important, and all obviously stuff that, again, is not stuff to be taken lightly. Obviously just time spent in working together and the relationships that are formed. I'm sure, coaches at weddings and things like that, I'm sure, I guess, I don't know, when did Mahomes get married? But Reed, if it was like this year going down, like Reed is Reed going to be like front row? Like what row is the Reed, is Reed in the Swift Kelsey wedding? We got like the American wedding of all time, and the pictures, Andy Reid's going to be in the first 3 rows. And again, he's totally makes sense because, again, him and Kelsey and Mahomes and that group of guys have obviously been through the battles, and there is a friendship and does seem like a real, again, connection that has developed there. But, again, there is and not to say that again, or not to say that people don't have struggles or whatever, but there is just also sometimes sort of you think about it as sort of again, quote unquote, kind of navigating in a way maybe the positives of life, or you maybe just don't consider the details of, again, obviously maybe what potentially again, you could be leading guys through as well too, but just to see how the Cowboys were able to rally around that moment. And shout out, obviously, a team that, of course, is obviously dragged a lot. And because of that, and because of, again, there's been, the defense has obviously, and again, not to say certain things. I'm just saying, like, there has been scrutiny around performance of the team that maybe the coach himself has, maybe not had the best light. And that was a moment where we're like, okay, again, not to take it, just saying, like, it was great to see how the Cowboys coach was able, shout out, to be in that locker room moment. And great to bring up, again, a legacy to honor a guy as well, too, who clearly was, obviously impactful on the field, rest in peace, was making, amazing plays, in his last games. And like we're saying, you can see in the locker room, just a great impact guy as well, too. So, again, just in general, great to see his legacy continuing to be honored as well. Definitely a name not to be forgotten. But yeah, I guess if you can pivot back into NBA hoops as well too, to continue with NBA Wednesday night. Maybe we do go over to the Kings Thunder game real quick. A little Westbrook, I guess. Are the Kings sort of the Thunder from a couple years ago at some point? I'm not sure. Did Westbrook and Schroder both have Thunder? Did Precious Achua have a Thunder's run? I don't think he did. Maybe some Raptors minutes. Eubanks, maybe? I don't know. Definitely not Malik Monk. Though Malik Monk could have a Thunder's run. Definitely, they do have some players that are like kind of take his role in terms of being a 3-point specific guy, and I think maybe even some contract values that would make more sense, like Isaiah Joe versus Malik Monk, AJ Mitchell even versus Malik Monk, again, just in terms of the minutes that he's going to get, Kason Wallace defensively, I don't know if that's a little more Keon Ellis, type minutes as well too. I guess the 2 minutes that Keon Ellis played, but just being a defensive guard specifically. But yeah, he could be kind of I wouldn't be surprised if Malik Monk was a Presti guy. If Presti was kind of saying maybe he would be a guy that he'd be looking at to have on a team at some point. Again, who even knows who Presti actually does want as free agency? I get Hartenstein. That was a pretty good contract signing. And make no mistake, their core is expensive enough. I think they spent $1 billion on the three guys combined almost. Shea, Chet, and Jalen Williams. So J-Dub anyways. So, again, they've made their commitments financially. But yeah, Shea anyways tonight, 33 in 36 minutes, 8 for 10 from the free throw line. Chet 21. How was our guy AJ Mitchell in the game? Just a casual little 13, 4 for 10. So he is taking shots as well too. I mean, he's been efficient this year, so he's definitely getting to the point where he is earning, obviously, the opportunities that he is getting. We're not going to try to take away from that, but just to double check as well too. Yeah, 44 and 31. So it is a little bit of opportunity mixed with, again, he is playing really, really well. But, how will he cross over? Playoff performance. Again, he's, I don't know. Have we been, was Casino, did it autoplay on Tubi last night when we were sleeping? Are we getting kind of a Scorsese vibe to the speech here? I don't know. But, well, maybe there have been a lot of Sopranos reels as of late as well, too. We've been watching a lot of the show as of late just via the reels and the algorithm. It is what it is. I mean, it is obviously a really captivating show. I mean, we've never seen it, so when we start watching a scene, it's obviously new to us as well too. So we get engrossed in this. Is that even the right way to use that word? We get captivated by the scene again, just because of the newness of it as well. Seeing something, obviously a high quality something like that for the first time, obviously is very impressionable. But in Gandolfini as well too. Rest in peace. He's a legend. Anytime you see him as well. I don't know if we talked about the fact that somebody told us to watch Fallen, and we were like, oh yeah, we probably should, because we got to, make sure that we've seen every last Denzel film. So we still got to see Gladiator 2, but in terms of, 90s, 2000s Denzel movies, Fallen was one of the few that it definitely has been out of the streaming mix a little bit, and we just haven't seen yet. So it is on Tubi now. I think it was free on YouTube for a little bit there, but now it's on Tubi as well too. So officially hits the streaming waves. But we of course got that one out of the watch list, and yeah, I don't even remember why we brought up Denzel movie. It is what it is. Something with AJ Mitchell. Shout out AJ Mitchell. We're not competent to Denzel. I mean, with all due respect. But yeah, I guess 13 shots a game on 16 points. So like we're saying, productive. But I mean, for still him, second year, still room to improve. Shout out. We're calling him out, chat. Hey yo, it is what it is. Is that our job here from the couch? To hold guys accountable from field goal percentage? I think so. So Case and Wallace, chat. Hey, yo. Good job. Lou Dort. Good job. Shea. Cross. Check the line. Check the boxes there. Chet Holmgren as well, too. 10 for 15. Everybody locked in tonight. Hey, yo, chat. I guess 47%. The bench bringing down the overall field goal percentage. But the starters, everybody from the starters was over 50% from the field. Even Hartenstein only in, I guess, 27 minutes, but only 1 for 2. Still, I guess, technically 50%. 12 rebounds, 3 assists to a turnover as well, too. Assist-turnover ratio night here on the Maroon Sand Pod as we focus on that. So, speaking of Chet, 6-1 turnovers, 2 assists. He's in the lead right now. Who did we have earlier at 2 assists and 3 turnovers? I forget. Maybe we look at Derek Queen's turnovers as well, too. Some usage in there. Maybe there's a couple. But, yeah, you've got, we can't do math, but I guess just these two alone are at 50%. This guy, Case Wallace, is one shot over being 50% at 5 for 9. Chet Holmgren is at 2/3 here at 10 for 15. Oh, and Hartenstein is at 50% as well, too. I guess Rem can't do math, but the calculator definitely can. So we can see here what the starting lineup actually was able. 10 plus 1, chat. Sometimes you just put in all the numbers just to do it. Pause, just to see what you get. So yeah, the starting lineup 55% from the field. If I speed math did it right, I guess watching the live stream, just staring at the screen here, you guys probably were able to fact check me and see if we were able to get it into the calculator correctly. Hey yo, shout out. That's math skills now. It's not. Can you do math? Can you not fat finger a number wrong in the calculator and do your calculations messed up that way? So yeah, Jalen Williams 0 for 2. Brooks Barnhizer, I guess, didn't take any shots. 2 minutes. It is what it is. Brooks Barnhizer, an NBA game is the only scenario in which Brooks Barnhizer doesn't take any shots. I'm thinking more, obviously he's taking shots of alcohol, he's taking drinks, but yeah, I would say you get Brooks Barnhizer. Maybe he leads the team in shots before the game, like at the club. Brooks Barnhizer seems like a guy that's just a name of a guy that would party really hard. Maybe Brooks Barnhizer is not a shots guy though. That maybe is more of a beer guy. I don't know if it's like a Shane Gillis type drinker, but maybe Brooks Barnhizer. If you're wait, he took down 24 beers tonight. Brooks Barnhizer's he's on his 24th beer. I feel like that would be more crazy, or more realistic, something to hear over here. But also, if you're Brooks Barnhizer just did 13 shots and now the guy he was competing against passed out. I also wouldn't be surprised to hear that as well too at a potential just party. That is a fun thing. Just if you were overhearing this guy's drinking at a party, pause. What would that night look like as well too? Which one would be Chet puked in the bathroom on his 3rd beer? What is the what are the stories that are whipping through Chet's in the bathroom, but what's Shea doing? Shea's probably having a whatever scenario is working out. Probably Shea is gonna probably have that one, so we'll just assign that there. And then I guess I don't know if we already said for Case and Wallace. Caruso might be designated driver, honestly. Caruso is just like, did Caruso, you're not going to drink? Oh, come on, but you can have one. It's like, okay, maybe we'll see if we can peer pressure. But when he's not the designated driver, though, he might be like a close second to Barnheiser. Like Barnheiser, maybe the end of the night, of course, is able to pull away, but the beginning of the night, Caruso and Barnheiser, I think, are toe for toe. That's for sure. And honestly, is Ousmane Dieng invited, chat? Because he never plays. He never plays. So we'll have to see. Is Ousmane Dieng invited to the parties? That'd be tough. Ousmane Dieng, San Antonio, I don't know. We can't get Giannis. Can we get Ousmane Dieng? Has anybody ever said that before, chat? Hey, breaking ground here. Original takes from the Rem and Sam pod. If you can't get Giannis, can you get Ousmane Dieng? That's the question, and every NBA GM should be asking themselves. The Rod Hemingway, who's that guy? Ernest Hemingway, who was the GM for the Magic back then that had the dry erase board that was going crazy with all the prospects on it. That would be our dry erase board if they cut to our room during free agency. They're like, did you see the Rem and Sam pods dry? It's Giannis #1, Ousmane Dieng #2. So, I don't know if that's locked in, or is that super locked in, or is that not locked in at all? I don't know what the answer is there. But shout out. We'll have to see if, Kai Cenat can do a live stream with the Thunder, and maybe we can, I guess, do we want to figure out the party habits of the Thunder? I don't know. Maybe now. Maybe now it's okay. Maybe not. Do we have to go to break again? I don't know, Chad. Hey, yo. We might have to settle down. I don't know if YouTube's going to take us off the airwaves again. Were we saying crazy stuff last night, and that's why we got taken down? I'm not exactly sure, but it is halftime for the Knicks versus the Mavs right now. Yeah, Mikal Bridges misses 22-foot jumper. We did see that one at the end of the quarter. We didn't say anything, but that was like a double team, throw it at the basket, air ball underneath the net type of attempt. So, not great there at the end of the half, but they are winning so far. Brunson with 15, and Bridges 5 for 7. That's one of his only misses. So shout out. He is actually having a great game. Unfortunately, that was one of the baskets we locked in to see. Yabusele with 4 points and +10 is, of course, being impactful. Early minutes. Mohamed Dwara, 2 minutes. Okay, getting some run there, I guess, for some reason. Gotta let the young guys play. Clarkson, 10 minutes. Hart, 13. McBride, 10. Typical bench rotation for Dallas. We got Russell, 5 points, 14 minutes. Oh, he doesn't even start, chat. Hey, yo. Why? So they start Brandon Williams, 7 minutes for Brandon Williams. I guess he is 0 for 4, so shout out. Russell is, I guess, looking at the box score, a better option than they have at some other places. But Najee Marshall leads the way. Is Najee Marshall, is he in save Najee Marshall territory? Like Ousmane Dieng, I guess he could also be in rescue Ousmane Dieng territory. Like nobody needs rescued from the Thunder, but he might actually be one where, what does it say? Like if you want to actually test a guy's ability in the NBA, like, does he play for the Thunder is a pretty good test. I don't know if there is a guy that is playing minutes for him right now that, the conversation, of course, would be, again, the other way around. Who could play on the Thunder? I think most every other guy could play on every other team for the Thunder. So shout out to them, of course. Obviously they have a great team. But Najee Marshall, he's good. He's good, and he's a good heat check guy as well, too. You can get hot from 3, shout out. If he's not taking shots with 3 seconds left in the shot clock because D'Angelo Russell's dribbling around, maybe there is a better opportunity for him. And he has always been, as a playmaker, a little bit more important to Dallas than maybe, again, he should have been, where, yes, Luka and Kyrie, of course, have been there. The Luka era goes for, again, Luka from Cooper Flag, but now it's Luka to D'Angelo Russell. I don't know if that's the line that they thought they were going to draw there. But, again, Najee Marshall would be a guy where it's like all of a sudden it'd be Luka and Najee Marshall against some of these teams, and like Luka would be out for a night, and Najee Marshall's like going toe to toe with Denver in the regular season. Like, why does Najee Marshall have 27? I mean, again, he's got 19 tonight, so he's gonna have, probably a random 25 as well too. Can we look up here like how many times last year? I mean, he definitely, he has his single digit games. Make no mistake, but he also will balance it out as well too. So this year he's at 11. He is at like 8.9. So he's at almost 10 for his career. So he'll have a 20-point game, then he'll have a 2, and it'll balance out. It is what it is. But again, even when he's not necessarily scoring, of course he's hustling, he's active, he's always flying around. So he'll be impacting the game. And again, if he is a little bit more farther down, at least the rotation in terms of importance or whatever, maybe his ability to quote unquote foul as well, like not quote unquote foul, but his ability to foul as well too could be actually, I guess a little bit more valuable in a way, or just not as risky to the team. Where again, it's like, okay, if Najee Marshall's like in foul trouble, you're like, oh, that's a big option that's down for Dallas at this point, or again has been. Even when they're going to the finals there. I guess we could go look at that playoff run as well too and see what he accomplished there. But 20-point games. He had 15 20-point games in 2 30-point games. So 17 games of 20 or more, all the way plus. And then 29 games of 9 or less. So definitely more in the single digits. But again, these bounds are 23 in the middle last year. Kind of rounding it out. What was his overall number last year? Oh, points per game. Hey, yo. Of course, it's only going to give us the total here. But don't worry, we've got practice on the calculator. So, 31 starts. How many games did he play? Oh, chat. That's up. 69? Oh, okay. 69 would have been the old thing, I guess. And we did see a post as well. The quote of the day. We did see a post that was 2 AirPods. I guess what generation AirPods? I don't even know. Second generation? But it was 2 AirPods, opposite directions laying next to each other. And it was like the generational gap of what do you see when you look at the which number do you see? Do you see it as a 6'9" or do you see it as a 6'7"? And it was like, okay, old people now only see 6'9", and obviously, cool people see 6'7". So, anytime we see 6'9", again, we're, as I guess, an old head trending that way. That's like the number that's funny for us. But do the kids? I don't know, Chad. Is 6'9" is funny? It's 6'7". Again, it's close enough that I feel like it kind of took over. So I know that was the point of the post there, but yeah. I mean, just kind of wanting to make the jokes. You're like, oh, but 6'7's right there, Chad. It's right there. It is what it is. But either way, Najee Marshall, 13 points a game last year, so that's pretty good. Again, role player contribution level. If he was a guy that was 20 points a game, it would probably be because he's taking a lot of, but yeah, 50% from the field as well too. So I guess his 3-point, his 3-point shooting is the thing that is erratic. It will probably affect his overall performance the most. Of course, here, let's go percentage wise. 18 games of 40 or more, and then a bunch more, of course, under that. I guess never did get like a ton made, so it was when he is scoring a lot, he is, of course, getting to the basket and free throw line there as well, too. But, again, 17 or more 20-point games. Like, if we went to the stat head, again, obviously guys at the best players in the league, Shea, whatever, name a great guy, the 20-point threshold is one that should feel fairly easy, but I guess to just name a guy on our team, I guess to balance it out, to, not call out other people's teams or whatever. But, think, let's say like Vassell here. So again, like, I guess Najee Marshall, total games played. Well, 69. Shout out. So yeah, Vassell's going to be right in that range. Unfortunately, I don't know, whatever you want to look at it. Again, the modern NBA, I feel like 72 is a pretty good mark. So if you're at 69, you're close. And you're over the threshold as well too. Should the NBA move the new All-Star game threshold to 67 as like a PR move? I'm not sure. Or 67. See, we just said 67. Who would say that in 2025, 2026? It's just 67 now. It's literally a new number. 67 doesn't exist. It's just 65, 66, 67, 68, and then, see, 69. You wouldn't say 69, I guess. I guess you would say 69. But you could say 69 interchangeably, and you can't, obviously. So yeah, I guess a new segment here where Rem breaks down what the kids are saying, but you can't say 67. I guess you can just only say 67, though. I guess I don't know the rules. It is what it is. Shout out Rem's old, but yeah, we're looking at Vassell's numbers. for yeah. So we're looking up basketball stats. See who looks up basketball stats in 2025 as well too. It is what it is. Do people still say Riz, chat? I'm not sure, but Vassell had 25 games of 20 or more. So yeah, it's a good thing it is a little bit of a handful more there than Najee Marshall. 10 games less. Okay, good. You know, that was just a good comparison of a guy who is like more of a primary focus scorer though. Though again, it's not like so far off. We're like, is Najee Marshall overall, you know, a much worse player? And again, I guess for this year, Vassell's at 39% from the field. In his career, you know, 44% from the field. Last year, yeah, 44% from the field as well too. So Najee Marshall, you know, a little bit more effective when he's getting to the basket, and you know, a little bit his game a little bit more streamlined, anyways, in terms of what he is able to do. Hey, yo, who is a good comparison for this type of player? Like, because I think you can get the dynamic pretty easily of a guy who is maybe a more of a high usage scorer. But I don't know, like a Zach LaVine versus Najee Marshall. Again, you start going contracts and stuff. You know, I think that could be a debate that I think could be had. I think that maybe is a little disrespect. You know, shout out Zach LaVine. Obviously, speaking of efficiency, he is an efficient scorer as well too. I don't know on Sacramento. Has that been a jinx for his numbers? I'm not sure. Let's take a look here because, you know, again, you look at his box score in Chicago and you're like, okay, you know, if he had that box score as like a number 2 on a team, he'd be good. And I guess translating it to Sacramento, chat, hey, yo, he's 22 a game this year, so a little lower on scoring, but a little less shots. Again, you got just more veteran guys there. So, I mean, chat, I know we talk about rescue Najee Marshall. We got to say it. You got to rescue Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is in rescue this guy territory. His numbers are better in Sacramento. You know, again, the good stats, bad team mantra that gets floated out there. You know, I guess could we dive into some of the defensive stuff here if we're breaking down numbers? You know, maybe go watch a little bit more. No, man, chat, we have to watch more Sacramento? I don't know. But, yeah, maybe we actually might have said a couple live streams ago we don't mind watching Sacramento, but I guess that was a couple live streams ago. It is what it is. Times change. But, but yeah, he said, again, having his at least career high in field goal percentage. And last year was his career high in three-point percentage. So the attempts are still high enough that, yes, he is scoring efficiently. And if that was, you know, again, a primary focus where you go to the team to get points and not necessarily be the guy that does everything for the team. If Zach LaVine obviously has to do everything on the team, then, hey, you know, how many guys in the league can do that? But, you know, I guess, was there talk maybe of him to Milwaukee at some point, you know, as like some teams that maybe have some, could they get desperate? Could there be some compromise that works both ways? You know, LA, I think was a team. Is he a clutch guy? So I don't know if that was floated in there. And then maybe that was before Doncic as well, too. It's like, hey, if you know, we're not trading Davis. I don't know if that would have been a Reeves trade or like, you know, we're trading Rui and then maybe going a different direction with the 3rd/4th guy on the team there. But shout out to, we got another Chad Powers commercial here in between games. I guess shout out to Glenn Powell. The Running Man movie we haven't seen. I don't know when we'll see it, but you know what we will do, chat? It will make us go watch the old Running Man. It is what it is. Shout out. That is one of those movies that, and I guess you could have this conversation with every remake. And there are movies that are classic movies. I guess cult classic is obviously not a new term. So you know, Running Man, a cult classic movie. So I don't know. There are cult classic movies that do need / I guess can be remade, but The Running Man, you know, didn't feel like it needed remade. And maybe we've said this before as well too, but Arnold is one where if you're gonna replace Arnold in a role, so many of Arnold's movies, you know, is 50-50 a low number for a lot of movies like that are Arnold's charisma versus the movie actually being good. And I don't know, we start doing a rewatchable spot here, but you know, how many other stars could you put into some of those Arnold roles? And not just to say the sort of physical presence as well too that Arnold had. Though, as speaking of the, you know, like the Predator team, I guess not speaking of, but if, you know, we're talking about Arnold movies, the Predator team, you know, shout out to Carl Weathers as well too. Carl Weathers maybe, you know, could have actually just been in all of the Arnold roles and done all of that stuff well too. You know, the thing, like Carl's, the humor would have been different because Carl Weathers is like, you know, rest in peace, I guess, you know, shout out. But you know, Carl Weathers, his movies still live on. So in his movies, I guess is how we're referencing it. But he is, as an actor for his career, like legitimately funny. So yes, Arnold, I guess as well too, is legitimately funny. But there is also that, of course, unintentional comedy with Arnold, where you could actually maybe drive some more jokes with Carl Weathers and it would actually be funny. Like, I guess you wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't say as a comp that Carl Weathers would be like a more jacked Eddie Murphy, but I think Carl Weathers could have done Beverly Hills Cop as well too. Who was Beverly Hills Cop originally? Was it like Steve Martin or something like that? We'll Google that one real quick. Bing better pull through on this. Let's see. Beverly Hills Cop OG star. I guess that's probably not going to help Bing at all if it has to try to decipher a trade. Shout out, yes, the Beverly Hills Cop OG star is Eddie Murphy, so we're glad about that. But the cast, where are they now? Ronnie Cox, shout out as well too. But who first star before Eddie Murphy? Is there first star rumored? Let's see here. Right, we're not going to be able to find it. It is what it is. But that might be a more famous rumor than the Giannis, you know, peanut butter and jelly DM. That might be a pause. It is what it is. But Stallone. That's what it was. It was Stallone. So Stallone, you know, in terms of, and I know, you know, we're not trying to get controversial and be like, you know, who do you replace roles with? I'm just talking about a guy doing an action comedy role, because of course Eddie Murphy did do culturally specific stuff, but I think, again, there is, you know, obviously Sly Stallone being the original version, there is a version of Beverly Hills Cop, or obviously a cop place movie, and again, does the fish out of water dynamic, and again, we're talking 80s, we're talking, you know, whatever, but is there a certain dynamic in the movie that works because of the star, or gets, you know, a little bit more highlighted again because of the star as well too? Of course, but you know, is there a version of, again, Beverly Hills Cop that works with Stallone? For sure. But I guess, does it also work with Carl Weathers? Yeah, so that's perfect, like we were saying. It's because Carl Weathers replaced Stallone in basically any movie, for sure. So I guess, you know, again, speaking of they don't make them like they used to, chat, you know, speaking of action stars, it is what it is. But speaking of Glenn Powell, I was thinking about this too, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be a disrespectful Glenn Powell corner, but and speaking of the Rewatchables pod as well, you know, he was just a guest on there, if I guess you're locked into that pod, but he was very intelligent about movies, and you can tell he's a big history of movies, and he is, of course, I guess, I don't know, of course, I'm trying to think now of all the movies that he's done. I guess Twister was the other movie that I was thinking of, so he is focused on remaking a lot of these, again, cult classic type movies, with Twister and The Running Man being two that, I guess, was there an original Chad Powers, I guess, you know, remaking the cult classic commercial that Eli Manning starred in, Chad Powers, into a TV show, but not necessarily like serious acting roles as well too, which was kind of the part that dawned on me about Glenn Powell, because Pedro Pascal in chat here at Lost the Basketball, let me get it back. Pedro Pascal, who I think was the other guy this year that was a front runner for who could take the mantle as, you know, the sort of star of Hollywood. And I'm telling you guys, it's still, you know, in the who can drive a movie conversation, I think Michael B. Jordan can drive a movie. Obviously, you know, he's done most of his movies with Coogler, and the benefit of both those guys being stars definitely helps it. You know, you would go see a Coogler movie if it didn't star Michael B. Jordan, and I'm saying, you know, you'd probably also go see, well, hey, Coogler can drive a movie as well too. You know, are we back to where directors can drive a movie? I don't know, we're Hollywood corner now all of a sudden, but again, they do obviously benefit each other in terms of the quality and the attention that they get in people wanting to go see those films. But yeah, I think Michael B. Jordan is a good enough star that could Michael B. Jordan, is he a lock 100 mil at the box office now after Sinners? I could say yes. I don't know. You know, industry, I'm sure, would write an article to say why not. But I wouldn't be surprised if Michael B. Jordan was, because again, we're talking, you know, as a movie, then him starring in a movie event. You know, Sinners does, I don't want to say 300 million as like a low ball, but, you know, 300, 4, 5, you know, whatever the number, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Again, obviously, it's our movie of the year, but the number that it did do is elevated beyond the star power of an individual star. I mean, as good as Nolan is at driving a movie as a creator, obviously Oppenheimer became a little bit more of an event outside of the fact that it was just a Christopher Nolan movie. I mean, really reflected his star power in the industry as well, too. But like we're saying, other factors did become involved, helped drive that number up a little bit. But as a star, again, Nolan is going to probably, and I guess box office, of course, obviously would be the way to rate it. That's the conversation that we're having. I guess you could say he probably would be like a 250. He could be just like a 250 minimum guy. And I know the Odyssey, make no mistake, if it does 250, there's going to be some problems. What really happened? That's going to be the biggest flop of all. Imagine a movie makes 250 million is the biggest flop of all time. But that might be half the budget, I guess, here. Odd, how do you spell Odyssey, chat? Odyssey? We got to start throwing Y's in there. Odyssey budget. Let's see. For this movie. Oh, it is 250. So yeah, 250. It would get the Sinners treatment. Hey, yo. We would start. I guess, would it though? Imagine, chat. It would definitely get, and again, shout out. Obviously, we love Nolan, but there would be the article, why 250 million is a success for the Odyssey, why it actually is great. But again, he made $1 billion off of Oppenheimer. So, we talking $2 billion off of the Odyssey? Like, I don't know what the expectations are here. I would say, if would I be shocked if the Odyssey did 1.2? I don't know. Again, I don't even know what numbers are in 2025 now. It's like the music, you just don't even, Eminem does 1 million. So is Kendrick, if he drops an album and does, if he does 400 even, yeah, I guess, even if we're going, mid 2000s, if he does 600,000 in the first week, is he half as good as Eminem? Is he half as popular as Eminem? Because I guess in some ways you could say yes, but other ways, you would say maybe he's bigger all time than Eminem. It is what it is. But either way, I guess, obviously the Odyssey is going to have to do better than 250. But just in general, you would say, like, okay, could Nolan drive enough of an audience to get 250 million just by saying Nolan's just doing this movie? I would not be surprised by that at all. I guess I would say that Michael B. Jordan would be a $100 million box office. Well, like, what did Just Mercy do at the box office? That might have done like 50 million. I think that's, but again, that's a different point in his career. We're talking about now. I think maybe, do we say the next movie? And I don't know, we looked that up. Maybe if it's a smaller project, he'd really test our our take here. But I would assume any type of genre project that he would approach next would be well received if it was, would do well commercially if it did have a normal theatrical release like that. But I guess point being, Pedro Pascal, of course, was the guy that I think had a little bit of the actual a little bit of the actor juice as well too. And Glenn Powell definitely is a guy that, top draft pick for next Hollywood star. But again, I think, and this is maybe again sort of the athlete conversation of it as well too, where you do have athletes, of course, in all sports that maybe their star power doesn't necessarily reflect what you would say would be their, quote unquote, basketball or football or whatever skill. I mean, it could be as time goes on as well too. Is Aaron Rodgers right now a bigger star quarterback than he is a better quarterback? But that's just because, again, he's also in his 40s, so what's fair to say at that point? But, is Baker, like, when, we were talking about famous quarterbacks a couple live streams ago. So is Baker, and Baker's obviously playing really well right now too. So is Baker better than he is he more famous than he is better? Is he better than he is more famous? I don't know what the, the correct correlation is there as well too. But yeah, regardless, shout out chat. It is what it is. I guess maybe we just stick to focusing on the rest of the games as well too. But I guess we could also check in on this Bulls versus Blazers matchup as well. Keep an eye on one of the team of the year contenders, one of the previous team of the years as well too, one of the mistress teams from the past. So we gotta keep an eye and see what they gotta check on the page every now and then, see what they're up to. Jeremy Grant, 13 night, fresh off of being photographed in the runway like a superstar, shout out, like a model. It is what it is. You know, no disrespect. Not trying to take away from his game. He's playing well, obviously. Just fun to see. Klingon, our guy in the starting lineup, 4 for 9 from the field, impacting. -3 on the box score, though. Uh-oh. It is what it is. I guess they're losing, but Grant is +3 as well, too. Caleb Love. Oh, chat. He is trying. He is trying. 11 minutes and 0 for 6. Oh, no. Yikes. 0 for 4 from 3. You know, making the Clay numbers look pretty good from earlier. Chris Murray, our guy Chris Murray, 1 for 6. So I guess Thunder bench versus Portland bench to see who could mess up the starting lineups field goal percentages. Portland bench is definitely winning right now because they're at 38% as a team. I guess Sydney Sissoko, our former Spur, not helping out any at 2 for 6. So is that good or bad? I don't know. Do we, you know, it's always tough. Of course, we wish success for everybody, but if they're not on our team, it's a little bit like, hey, you know, could you play well when you're on our team as well too? But hey, you know, 2 for 6, a nice, acceptable performance from City Sissoko, I guess. It is what it is. Giddy, a little struggling tonight. It's the Vucevic show. Early on, 17 points in 17 minutes. He's been unstoppable, chat. So Klingon's just getting worked by Vooch. It is what it is. We need to tune in to watch this matchup. And Buzelis, what do you got? A little Buzelis versus Advia, maybe? If we were going, you know, the 1v1. Advia, 16 minutes, 12 points, even impact. If we're going plus minus there. But yeah, Buzelis, 8 minutes, 7 points as well, too. So what is he? Does he have some fouls here? Yeah, 3 fouls for Buzelis, I guess, would be why he is not playing much in the first half, but obviously was effective. And 2 turnovers, 3 fouls and 2 turnovers. Shout out Buzelis, hot start. But yeah, 3 for 4 from the field is not bad as well too. Of course, player still with you know, still a lot of career left. Desumu, 3 for 4 tonight. You love to see the good performances from our guy Desumu. Kobe White, whoa! I think our battery pack just slid off the little table over there. It is what it is. But oh, chat, we got Ghost in the room? I don't know. But Patrick Williams, 1 for 2 from the field as well. So that was the only other game going on live at the moment as well, too, if we were tracking the live games. But yeah, here, I guess just to double check that Derek Queen box score as well, too, as I guess he becomes one of the, or maybe midway, maybe quarter of the season. I don't know, maybe midway, maybe halfway through the season, we'll do a different topic. But maybe instead of doing like a quarter of the season sort of like awards or something like that, maybe it'll be like the most interesting things. I guess, hey, a super original. Outside of the awards, what's the, you know, most creative bit that we can think of? You know, the most interesting things that have happened. So I guess it'll just be us probably recapping everything we talked about over a quarter of the way through the season. You know, that also sounds like a classic NBA pod topic as well too. But I guess, you know, shout out, just it would be specifically where Derek Queen ranks in that. So I guess shout out, maybe spoiler alert, Derek Queen would be number 1. I don't know, probably not. Obviously Wemby would Derek Queen be number 2? Derek Queen be the number 2 guys we feel bad for? I don't know, guys we really want to have a great season just because they need to have a great season. Hey, whoa, Peyton Watson, 32 tonight. Yikes. Jokic, not even the best player on his own team. Hey, yo, I guess. And 12 rebounds. So Jokic, I mean, he needs the assist to keep. Oh, 9 turnovers, though. That might be the highest for Jokic in, like, his career. Let's see here real quick. This might be easier to look up because they do have the game highs listed as an option for each season. So we can see what his highest turnover mark for each season is. Wait, did we bookmark did we favorite the Zach LaVine box, the basketball reference page? I just saw on our tab here was starred, so maybe so. I don't remember accidentally clicking that, but shout out, I guess, you know, that means we just, you know, we're universe telling us that we need to pay attention to Zach LaVine, I guess, his box scores. Does that mean Zach LaVine's going to be on the Spurs? Hey, yo, is that our punishment for saying his box score is good? I don't know. We'll just have to see. But yeah, if we look at Jokic, game highs. Oh wait, did he have some? Okay, he's had some 10s, but yeah, I guess it is in 2 years. So yeah, he had 7 in 24-25 as a game high, and then 8 in. Oh, I guess this year is 25-26, so not necessarily 2 years, a year and a half. So he had 9 in 23-24, 10, 9, 10. So he'll have a game, I guess, where he gets up there. It is what it is. Pause. So Jokic's best game, I guess, would also include nine turnovers. So maybe the game high, though, I guess it is still the highest number, whether or not it's good or bad. But maybe it should be the low for the turnovers. So it'd just be 0, I guess. What games? How many games did he get 0 turnovers? But still, it would be fun to be like, what would be the best hypothetical box score for a game in the season? So again, maybe that would be a thing. Like, there wasn't a game in a season where a guy didn't have a turnover. Would that be possible? Like, did Harden back in the day have a season where every game he had at least 1 turnover? I mean, again, with the amount of offense that they're conducting, it's not, unsurprising that they did 10 assists to 1 turnover. It's okay at some point. But still, if it's like Jokic, and I guess 7 turnovers still on 22. So, I mean, I guess this, Jokic is able to just still be able to cook up a stat line that is this fun. But imagine just Jokic with a 61, 22, 22, and, 7 turnovers. So he had 22 assists and 7 turnovers. 3-1 actually does start being acceptable. But, yeah, I don't think he had 61 points and 22 assists in the same game. I mean, that would be a crazy offensive performance for the Nuggets just in general. They might have scored 200 points in that game. So, yeah, even 149, it's obviously up there. But still, I don't know if that's a 61 and 22 game for Jokic. 31 in 22. But it was a 30, the 30-20-20. Oh, man, what a classic, chat. The 30-20-20. 4 turnovers in that one as well, too. 0 blocks for our guy Jokic. So, again, not maybe the most... Yeah, if we're going to pick apart the stat line of the 30-20-20, didn't have a block in that game. But that blocks that game from being all-time? Probably not. Still, I think, a pretty historic performance. So, yeah, Wemby, the 30-20-20, that's the last level of greatness that Jokic does have offensively, is that playmaking factor. Just, as good as Wemby maybe could be as a playmaker, does he get to a 20-assist level game? Like, maybe Wemby gets like I guess, could he have a 60-point game as well, too? I guess just to see. Obviously, he is that talented to score that many points. It just becomes what kind of fired pause do you catch in an NBA game, and then the opportunity, and then maybe overtime. It factors as well, too. But, yeah, Wemby, I guess, could score 60 in a game. Maybe right now he's at, like, 57. Would be like the highest mark. If Wemby did get to 62 in a game, I would be like, whoa, that would be crazy. But 57, I'm trying to think. Wemby has had 50, and maybe that 40 game against Dallas is his career high at this point. Back to the Wemby page. We'll double check his career high in a second. So Jokic, he still had, of course, a triple-double in the 61 game. Chat. 61 points on 29 shots. You obviously have to get to the free throw line a lot to have a crazy scoring performance at some point. Even though I think maybe Wilt in his 100-point game, he might have he shot well from the free throw line. Maybe he did have like 30 attempts in that game. But I'd say maybe he only had like in the 20s as well too. So I would say maybe he's like 17 for 18 in that game. I don't know. We have to look up the Wilt 100-point game and see how many free throws he had. I don't know. We just found footage of it, so maybe we'll look that up as well too. But he still had Aaron Gordon with a 30-piece as well. But yeah, just a 61, 10, and 10, 18 for 29 from the field. So yeah, shout out. Obviously, one of the greats. No need for us to say it even. But for Wemby, his career high at this point, if he has gotten a 50-piece, we'll need to go back and watch the highlights and I guess get that game into memory. So yeah, he has had 50 even as the career high, which he did last year. I guess here we'll pull up the box score for this game. And for this year, 40 is still the high mark against Washington. So against SAR, shout out. It is what it is. Poole, though, had 42. So Poole versus Wemby, a hardwood classic. That'll be on NBA TV, I'm sure, probably this summer. Got to watch that one as soon as possible. But he was also 18 for 29 in the game as well, too. 8 for 16 from 3, 6 for 9 from the free throw line. So a couple more free throws there, a couple more three-pointers, and obviously the extra free throws that, Jokic had got him to 60. and not 50. So Wemby, a little bit more attacking, a little bit more being able to actually draw some of those fouls. I guess Jokic just, getting the ball every time as well, too. And just like he has to conduct the offense. Like you have Chris Paul, and again, he's going to probably absorb some possessions where he's just going to be running the offense. And again, that's what could Wemby score 60? Like we're saying, yes. But it needs to be a situation where, again, he's also going to be leading the team creatively like that. So, yes, it could happen now. But even still, Castle and Harper there might just have a couple of possessions where, like I'm saying, maxes Wemby out at a casual 57, we'll say, for a high watermark performance potentially. But Brunson staring at the three-pointer hand pause celebration made New York up by 6 here with Mitchell Robinson at the free throw line. So we'll see if it still says 6 here. Attempt is up. Oh, right off the front of the rim, chat. Hey, yo, a straight line brick. It is what it is. You knew from the release. You're like, oh, man, I missed that one. It is what it is. Obviously sometimes with the free throws, if you don't get the perfect release, you're like, hey, pause, hey, it may, if it's a shaky free throw shooter, it may go in, pause, but, hey, yo, double pause. Free throw shooting, I guess a sketchy line to walk. It is what it is. But, yeah, Mitchell Robinson right away. The trajectory of that one was tough. I mean, he's had his moments, shout out. You can't clown on him too much. That one, oh, it could have rolled in. Not quite. But, yeah, they still do have the lead here after D'Angelo Russell looked like he was going to maybe have a game. So, Gafford swooping in, not able to get the layup to go. And is Russell on the court? Oh, chat. It's actually a good moment maybe when the offense is moving around a little bit. And you're like, hey, where is D'Angelo Russell? So he does have, of course, the disappear into the corner factor when maybe he doesn't get the passes. But also just to see the offense functioning a little bit. I guess if Gafford, flying in for a layup counts as the offense functioning. Just somebody else taking, a possession with in the teens offensively is fun as well, too. So, shout out. D'Angelo Russell to Sacramento maybe is the move. I don't know. With Cooper Flag out with an illness, I guess, who else is going to lead them as? If D'Angelo Russell, I guess I was going to say if he's a little more fun, there is like a Jameis Winston maybe type of vibe that Russell could have where it's like, okay, yes, maybe there's going to be some chaos, but Winston also is maybe, again, a little bit better than D'Angelo Russell is right now. Like, I don't know if Jameis has the equivalent of the dribble the entire shot clock out, and then that would be with Caleb Williams, D'Angelo Russell. That's tough comp, chat. That is a tough comp. So, D'Angelo Russell, former number 2 overall pick, so potential-wise, I guess there is maybe similarities there, but I think maybe Caleb Williams had a little bit more hype than D'Lo as well, too. With all due respect, I mean, D'Lo, again, like, he was a really good prospect, and I think a better playmaker than he ended up being in the NBA. He did end up, of course, I mean, as you see now, he is a little bit more scoring focused, and even, shout out the floater, gets to go. I mean, his moves, like, I know that, do you tell a guy to go watch D'Angelo Russell, like, how to play basketball? But I'm like, hey, if you want to, like, learn some offensive moves, like, D'Angelo Russell is fun to watch. So, watch the super cuts and just, you got to learn, you got to get the other superstars as well, too. Watch those. You got to know how to mix in the moves. So it's like, if I can take D'Angelo Russell's moves and sort of balance them offensively, in the way that, and, how do you even tone down D'Angelo Russell's game to fit into a scheme, chat? Hey, yo, I guess, that does become a little bit of an issue because, if you play like could a toned down D'Angelo Russell be like a Jalen Williams type? I don't even know if does that even make sense, but or like, as impactful as like Mikal Bridges. I'm not even sure. I don't even know what that would look like. Again, a tone down D'Angelo Russell, but again, he could have. There was that kind of playmaker potential of. I want to say he was like a 16-10 type of guy in college. So if he had been like that in the NBA, it's a little bit of a different career, but also, it'd be interesting just to see what that would have looked like as well too. From an early on, I think it was clear that D'Angelo Russell was not always focused on setting his teammates up for success, but again, Obviously, definitely on the court as well, too, became a little bit more scoring focused, maybe than he was in college. But either way, I guess we were focused on this Denver versus New Orleans box score at one point as well, too. Tim Hardaway Jr., 7 points tonight. Ayo, shout out. Zeke Najee, Najee Marshall versus Zeke Najee. Probably going to take Najee Marshall in that, in that case. It is what it is. But 2 points, getting some starting minutes for him as well, too. Shout out there. And then, yeah, Queen, like we were saying, with the 30-piece as well. So, and 0 in the box score plus minus. So for a team like New Orleans, that's not nothing, chat. Again, this team is 2 for 13. And Denver is good, as much as they are also very much a plus minus team with Jokic and him being just one of the most impactful players that we've seen literally in NBA history. But yeah, Queen is able to get the team to be able to go toe-to-toe with a team like Denver when he is out there. I mean, can he win Rookie of the Year? Cooper Flagg has missed a game now, so I don't know if that totally, takes him out of the conversation. But it's not like, again, he's started off scoring 18, 19 a game. I mean, he has, but not like in a, crazy efficient way. Or not like, Cooper Flagg's here. Like, he's had moments, he's had games. So 15, he's right there. 15 a game, 15, 6, and 3. The box score is rounding out nice. He's had moments against Giannis, moments against other stars where he's gone toe-to-toe. Yeah, that Mavs-Bucks game was a great game of him matching a star like that. Again, 26 is, 9 for 15. Great performance all the way around. 7 for 10 from the free throw line. Shows the aggressiveness there. Absolutely. 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Nice overall box score. But you get the 3-point shooting up a little bit. I mean, he's 52% from 2. So he's already positive in that factor. Is definitely good. But yeah, as the 3-point shooting percentage rises, of course, he's getting more comfortable. The scoring will obviously get there. We're not doubting him. I'm just saying instantly, ayo. I guess, what are we doing? Our guy Edgecombe is definitely Rookie of the Year right now as well, too. He's got to be 20 plus, maybe like 18, 19. I don't know. But that would be that threshold that we were talking about. If Cooper Flagg was at that number, that would be like he's here. And, Edgecombe, he's dropped to 15 as well, too. So, shout out. He obviously had some great performances there to start. But, I guess a little dip is a little pause. Not necessarily something to be totally shocked by. 2 for 11, 3 for 9. Ebbs and flows. It's going to happen. But, yeah, I guess, to bring that back to the Derek Queen point, we could go check his season numbers here as well, too. It means there is opportunity for him to catch these guys. He's had a 30-point game in the mix as well, too. Yeah, 34. Right to start the season. So if we take that off, is this not a... It's still not a overhyped Edgecombe season, that's for sure. I guess we could double check. He did have a good game tonight as well, too. So again, he's getting back on track. But I guess, the last couple of weeks has been a little bit more, rookie-like, I guess, for him. 4 for 12, 3 for 14, 5 for 15, 3 for 9, 2 for 11, and then starting to get back up over 40% here over the last couple of games. So, again, it's just, maybe Derek Queen's numbers are flipped like this, and he's starting to go a different way on the box score, and it all is just even right now at this point. But, again, as the season plays out, maybe Edgecombe is not totally running away with it. So you see Derek Queen right now 10, 6, and 2 on the year in the 14 games that we have played. 10% from 3, so he's maybe make a couple more from there. I don't know if, again, that's going to be the main part in his game. 9, 9, and 9. Very consistent. Let's talk about consistent, very consistent over the last couple of games. But you see 23, 6. Like, in November, he's probably not too far off from our guy Edgecombe as well, too. So, again, that first month of the season, I mean, as great as it was for a rookie, is definitely helping. But here, I guess we have FanDuel tab pulled up. Let's see. And if anything, if we're looking at this performance against Jokic and thinking, hey, this is him only going to continue to get better. And, I mean, this is a great checkpoint to have a good performance like this on the court across from another great superstar, then maybe it's a good time to check in on the odds as well, too, and see if there is any value there. If he is, and again, I'm not always the greatest with potentially projecting what the odds would be. So if he's plus 4 to 1, I was going to say plus 350, but we'll be We'll be generous. We'll have expectations here. You know, if he's 4-1, then that could be a really interesting potential. 4-1, you know, or greater, I guess. Could be really interesting to look at. Defensive Player of the Year, we have out the Rookie of the Year, 25-1. Oh, Cedric Coward. I forgot about Coward. Oh, Knuppel plus 150. Let's look at Knuppel here real quick. I guess maybe he is a sneaky, but again, is he more than 15 a game? So it would just be his efficiency and him just kind of being, you know, again, the quote-unquote better player right now. However, so yeah, I guess 46 and 40, of course. And he is at 17-6 a game. So I guess, you know, as you would expect, that extra efficiency is going to lead to a couple extra more points with that opportunity being there as well, too. And yeah, speaking as of late, you can see his scoring numbers have really taken off. He had 32 the other night in that loss to Milwaukee in overtime. And then in other night against Toronto as well. I mean, another loss, but also 24 in that game too. So yeah, it makes sense. And then Cooper Flag, just the legacy stuff. I mean, but you know, it's close enough that you can see that they are valuing Knuppel with the little bit of a better season there. And then Edgecombe plus 450. But so 25-1 again, I was like, you know, not remembering all the names. So I was thinking if it was just Derek Queen versus Cooper Flag, they're clearly saying obviously Cooper Flag is close, or just Derek Queen versus Edgecombe. But yeah, Coward as well too is also having a pretty efficient start. So yeah, he could be 17, he could be 13 here. We'll see kind of where he falls in that leaderboard. I don't know if the leaderboard is just stacked up here basically on points per game. That obviously be a strong way to start. But yeah, 47 and 40 as well there for Coward too. So him and Knuppel, very similar efficiency, and he is 14, 6 and 2 as well too. So yeah, just very similar numbers all the way around. So honestly, Cedric Coward's not a bad bet. Coward at just, I mean, again, just looking at literally the box scores are almost the same. Knuppel, I mean, clearly, you know, playing better recently, like we're saying, and or just having, you know, more points recently, and maybe a little bit more responsibility on offense as well too. But still, just the box scores being that similar, and the teams being, you know, not that team success is a great Rookie of the Year indicator, but if you have to have a separation for a close call like that, you know, it's pretty equal both ways as well too. So not bad odds there for Coward even as well. And I guess, yes, you see it really drops off. Like, as good as Dylan Harper could be at some point in this season, you know, I don't know if we expect him to be Rookie of the Year as well, too. Igor Denham at 500-1. You know, will he have a 15, 8-8 run at some point in this season, and the Nets have like a 2-win stretch over a period? It's like, whoa, what's happening there? But, yeah, Derek Queen, obviously, you know, the last guy that sort of has even feasible odds at this point to win Rookie of the Year, the last guy kind of with a case, but that means, I guess, it's good value for us, 25-1, if we're really, like we're saying, overvaluing what he did tonight against Jokic. Pause. So, which we definitely will, because it helps validate Wembanyama. So, you know, because he obviously played well against Jokic in that one game. But yeah, shout out for him continuing to have what is turning into, at least, again, just him having moments as well too. We'll see. Rookie of the Year, you know, not trying to I guess whatever the expectations are, you know, I didn't set him too high. Obviously the Pelicans front office did that themselves by, you know, valuing him the way that they did with the picks. And AO, we're now having the conversation that we said that we didn't want to have earlier as well too, and bringing that up. So IT, you know, I guess we'll have to have like a penalty button at some point, see how that's in the mix. But for 2026, but yeah, Sven Goon tonight, official stat line 28, 11, and 7, 5 turnovers. If we're calling out everybody's turnovers, maybe that's the last one. Amen Thompson, the only one, I guess, after that. 6 assists as well too. Durant 4 for 0, and 20 points. Amen Thompson with 12 himself. So yeah, you know, again, his scoring still maybe a little step behind from where we'd want it for this season, but you know, still a long season. Donovan Mitchell 21 tonight. Mobley 18, 0 for 3 from 3. Naquan Tomlin in the starting lineup. So maybe Cavs fans use that as an excuse. But Lonzo, 25 minutes plus 1. Yeah, the scoring, you know, again, if you're trying to really make a run, you'd probably want your 7th, 8th man to maybe be a little bit better of a shot maker. But again, he has been impactful for him, and you can tell he still has a point guard, can elevate the guys that are around him. And you know, I don't know if we lock in the scoring stuff or we mark the scoring stuff for injury, but I'm sure it didn't help his scoring ability as well too. So a little obviously what if there for the Lonzo career, but still has a chance to be impactful on this Cavs team. You can see it on the box score there as well too, even if they lost tonight. And no Steph, so no Jimmy Butler. Hey, I guess, did the Warriors play last night? I think they did. So resting their guys. And no Kuminga as well too, leg injury. So would make sense why Pat Spencer got 13 shots. Gary Payton, I mean, I get that, like, maybe just in terms of, in the course of an offense, like Pat Spencer, again, 5 for 13. I guess he's trying out there. 13 assists as well, too. So, again, he's just doing a lot of work. But has Gary Payton not put in enough time and effort for this Warriors team that he can have a game where he just gets, like, a bunch of shots? And I don't even know what that would look like. But just, we're drawing up lobs for Gary Payton just all game and just trying to get him cutting and get him going to the basket and see what happens. But get Pat Spencer out here passing lobs to Gary Payton and give him some shine for, being on this team, then being traded and, coming back, chat, pause. Like, he gives the Warriors opportunities just like they give him opportunities, and he needs to be respected for it. So Will Richard, he's had some good moments, but there needs to be a game where his 3 shot attempts go to Gary Payton. And again, Pods is an actual guy going forward as well too, though. So you kind of want him to take shots. Guy Santos, it's like Guy Santos passed a couple times to Gary Payton. Just get him a couple looks. I'm not saying it's going to be the game-winning thing, and I'm not saying, run the bench through Gary Payton going forward. I'm just saying if there's a game like this that I guess against Miami you could probably win as well too, though, with these guys. You're probably thinking Andrew Wiggins revenge game, 17 points in 34 minutes. Powell is, I guess, obviously not Rookie of the Year contender, but I don't know, 6-man, I guess not 6-man of the Year contender as well too. He's been starting. There's got to be something besides an All-Star that we can give Powell. Can we just give Powell like the cool player award? Just like everybody kind of enjoys Norm Powell in the pause watching, because the last couple of years he's obviously just continued to get better here. As he said, his 30s, 25 a game, 47%, 46% from 3 is insane. He is 6.9. I mean, it's all over the place, chat. Just, it is what it is. Trying to stay alive. 6.9, really making 69, really making a run here in the stats, trying to stay relevant. But 3.2 makes on 6.9 attempts, 46% is crazy. Good free throw line numbers as well too, getting there 6 times a game. So 25 a game obviously would make him one of the better scorers in the league. Could he be like is he going to be the starting guard in the Eastern Conference? Speaking of forgetting names, this is where we really forget names. How, there hasn't been a guard better in the East than Norm Powell this year at all. I can't imagine, as we watch, the Knicks and Jalen Brunson as well right now. But, and I guess, has Cade been better than Norm Powell this year? I mean, you probably couldn't necessarily flip Norm Powell and Cade. What are the names there? Norm Powell and Cade Cunningham, I think is the right way to say it. But, you necessarily probably couldn't flip them and get the same result. I don't know if Detroit would be 12-2 with Norm Powell running the team. But, if Detroit were to trade for Norm Powell, they'd obviously be better. And just from a scoring standpoint, he's been more efficient. And I don't know if Miami would be worse with Cade. So maybe they'd probably be better with Cade, of course. Spoelstra would be able to elevate that performance as well, too. But shout out, he has been, I guess, is there like a PER number that we can stack up against other guys and see? Pause if it's 19.9 this year. So obviously his career high with his numbers being as good as they are. But we'll see actually like where in the league that ranks. And, there's going to be some 20s and stuff in there. But I could see, top 15 would put him PER. It'd make him a PER All-NBA guy. So you need, like top 24 to be considered PER All-Star level. Not necessarily counting, for correct conferences there. So immediately we see Franz at an 18.6. So just, again, PER All-Stars in the Magic. They probably have a similar record to the Heat as well, too. So I don't know if that probably hurts Franz's All-Star case. But, regardless, Norm Powell probably gets an All-Star spot before Franz this year. He's just, been really, really good. So I guess Jokic, we are underestimating how high the PER numbers can get. 38.3. Giannis at 34, Shea at 33, and then Doncic is the high end of the 20s with 29. Jalen Duren, 28.4. He's been a guy that has always been sneaky high up there, but yeah, as you know, this is like these guys, as a, you know, just like they'll have these runs in the seasons at the start of the seasons as well too. Sometimes where their numbers are just really off the page, and it's like, oh man, their numbers are even better this year. And yes, Jokic and Giannis' numbers are even better this year, so their PER numbers go up. And Duren, you know, his numbers still go up and stay there with them as well too. As good as Wemby's been, shout out Duren's numbers, PER number is better. So I'm not, you know, obviously getting, you know, existential here and who we should rather have, but you know, it's obviously encouraging for Pistons fans. Duren, could you make the argument the best player in the team? I don't know. So 19 is going to be a little bit lower. Cade at 20.7 is 29th in PER, but he's top 40. He is right between Durant and Denny Advia. Michael Porter is 20.4 on PER, so that might kind of invalidate, honestly. It is what it is. Shout out. Maybe Porter, you know, is like a little bit better than maybe people give him respect for. I don't know. But also, again, maybe proves that it's not perfect. Alex Sarr, 21.1. Alex Sarr, Eastern Conference All-Star. Maybe we do a little Eastern Conference All-Star check at some point as well. But, hey, yo, I don't know. Do we tune out with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter? We did tune out during a double. We tuned out at the start of a double overtime when the Mavs were playing the Clippers. So maybe this is just a bit now. I mean, you know, shout out. I guess you're not going to see us like, well, I guess, you know, we're pro a lot of guys in the Mavs. At the end of the day, we're not going to like, you know, be too anti anybody in the NBA. But like we said, they are our rivals. So maybe as rivals, it would be a good idea to just not watch the end of their games on the pod. That'd be funny. I don't know. Maybe it's not funny. I don't know. Maybe it's just us losing our voice and making an excuse for us to go. It is what it is. But yeah, I think we did make it through the a complete live stream. So a shout out. We made it. You know, not a typical Tuesday night schedule, but we did get for that midweek NBA hoops action, and of course some good games as always to follow along too. So if you guys are, of course, you know, have been around the REMINGTOM pod, you guys know the schedule. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday is when we try to hit the live streams and be on YouTube here. And like we said, unfortunately, some IT difficulties last night, and we were cut short on the live stream. So this week is why we are, of course, live right now, Wednesday night, or if you're listening to this on the pod platforms, I guess, you know, probably not the only reason if this would be late getting uploaded that would be. But, you know, in this case, that's why it would be for the Wednesday night NBA hoops action. So thank you guys for the ones that were able to jump on with us tonight and hang out. Always appreciate you guys showing up. And, of course, you can follow the live streams on the podcast feeds as well, too. They're available Spotify, Apple, all the various different platforms out there. You know, we don't even know the list. You know, it is what it is. There is a bunch. It seems like every time, you know, the services you'll use to upload to those platforms, I mean, shout out, you know, hey, yo, staying updated is what it is. I guess that's why you have the services. But be like, wait a second, what's this new podcast platform? I guess we're on here too. Like, we'll have to design a new page for this. Hey, yo, what's going on? But it's like, okay, at some point, it's like probably just Spotify and Apple is going to be where a lot of the traffic goes. But, I mean, you know, shout out to the Pandora audience out there, the Amazon audience, you know, no disrespect. Whatever platform you use to join the world of the REMINGTOM universe, the REMINGTOM pod, we really appreciate it as well, too. And don't forget as well, you know, Sam did call in, you know, shout out. You know, he's, you know, I guess maybe not always is able to just hit the couch on a random weekday night and just tune into some NBA hoops for a couple hours. It is what it is. You know, fortunately, we are, it is a blessing, chat, that we are able to just have that as a thing that we obviously have managed to been able to do. But, yeah, he did, of course, call in on a live stream recently here. So was that the week 10, I think, maybe live stream? Shout out a couple Sundays ago. You guys can, of course, go back and check that one out and all the different ones that we've done as well, too. Because, I mean, you know, there's some movie ones, there's some album ones as well. So, you know, you dabble around, see what's on there. But, yeah, like I said, you know, we'll be here on the YouTube. Hopefully Friday night. I guess if we have to make up for it, we'll have to see that one. But hopefully IT is locked in. I guess last night, you know, maybe is IT, maybe IT actually just runs the internet in general. Who knows? Because the internet had like some web pages go out. We were, you know, trying to poke around for some research stuff Tuesday morning. And it's like, wait a second, is our internet out? No, wait a second. Chicago internet is out. Now it's affecting us. What's going on? The cloud is down. I didn't know that was possible. But so yeah, maybe, you know, it affected the live stream. Who knows? Either way, we made it back for, like we said, a great fun hang tonight. So yeah, we thank you all for jumping on, and we'll